Howdy, howdy. We are alive on a what's typically a very special day. It's a little weird this year, but happy Star Trek Day, happy Friday. We have two brand spanking new episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks.
Which is great because we get two new ones, but also bad because then we get it's gone faster, basically.
Yeah, we get a 10-week season condensed down to a 9-week season, but we still have the same amount of content, so just have to cram in two episodes and one deep dive discussion tonight. But I think I have the right co-pilot to navigate this voyage back from the Delta Quadrant. With the return of Voyager. So yeah, this is our first new Voyager story in decades also. So we have that to discuss as well. But yeah, I see there's a lot of people in the live audience already chatting away. So I guess we should go ahead and get the show started. I'm Fatheree.
I'm Aaron.
And this is Tex-Trek, also Drawn to Trek. You know what's up. Here we go.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 258th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we take a deep look at Star Trek, old and new. And tonight is also the 14th installment, right, Aaron, of the Drawn to Trek podcast.
Yes.
And for the first time
we
in a
long
long
time. We made it past
the
13th. We got our... I didn't realize it was Friday the 13th when we... It's not literally Friday the 13th, but
it was a Friday when we were doing your 13th show
yeah.
of Drawn to Trek. And this is kind of a weird year for a few reasons, but one is that like this time of year, September, October, I kind of try to start getting into like the spooky mood, the spooky time of year, and like I don't watch like a ton of horror movies, so I kind of like save it for like this time of year. And there's actually a Friday the 13th in October if I looked at the calendar correctly.
We should do some sort of spooky Star Trek on the Patreon Discord or something like that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I guess we'll have a show on Friday the 13th in a few weeks. Now that I think that'll be Lower Decks season 4 episode 7.
Okay.
Assuming all my mental math I'm doing is correct.
And isn't that normally like the really good episode, or is that
like 7 last year was it was a good one for me. It was a bad one for you. That was the Peanut Hamper episode.
Oh, yeah, but 3. I mean that's their special like something like Crisis Point or whatever.
Veritas in season 1.
Yeah.
I can't think of 207 off the top of my head, but it was probably something real cool also. But yeah, we have 2 episodes to talk about, so it's gonna be a longer show than normal. And I don't know who is here for the first time. I think sometimes with season premieres we draw in some new eyes, some new ears. We have an audio show, we have a video show. So I don't know if you're listening to me or watching me or what you're doing, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're interested in Star Trek Lower Decks. You came to the right place to hear people talk about it. We're going to do a deep dive breakdown of the episode, or of both episodes, kind of look at them from every different angle as far as like Star Trek nerds, can approach something. The story, the way it uses the universe, the visuals, all of that fun stuff. Before we start talking about like these 2 episodes, we got what is it? Lower Decks season 4 episode 1, Twovix, written by Mike McMahan, directed by Barry J. Kelly and Jason Zurek. And then we have I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee, season 4 episode 2, written by Aaron Burdette, directed by Megan Lloyd. But before we get into that, I need to say thank you to the Tex-Trek Patreon crew. As Aaron was just mentioning, we do like to do watch parties with the patrons. So we got one coming up September 16th. That's next week's Saturday, the 16th, that afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Central. We're going to be watching the animated series episodes Yesteryear, because that's the most popular one that everyone seems to love, and it makes people cry unless you're heartless and I've never loved a pet. But we're gonna follow that up with the Slaver weapon, because after we're sad at Spock's pet dying, we get to watch I don't know,
Kitties.
like a bunch of evil kitties, evil space cats try to murder Spock and Sulu and Uhura. So yeah, that's all fun stuff, fun animated series stuff, kind of like the theme of the month, I suppose. We have the return to Lower Decks, we have the big 50th anniversary of Star Trek the Animated Series, which actually today day
Yes,
recording.
if you're watching today, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, so really cool, really big milestone. Aaron was actually at the picket lines today because there's still 2 strikes going on.
I was gonna say, it's like I'm a little out of it. It's because I was like baked in the sun for 2 hours, and it was a lot of fun, but it was just like back and forth, and I mean, yes, obviously that's what a picket line is, but they have this weird thing where you got to a cone and they made some of the people go back and some not. So sometimes you were doing like this really small just turnaround where it kind of felt almost like you're herded into a corner, and then it became like a bigger one, and it was interesting. But there was so many people there. I think it was a really good turnout from what I can tell. I saw Michelle Hurd, who smiled and waved at me, and I'm still trying to figure out why, because I don't think I know her. Or she thought it was somebody else, maybe. But yeah, so just a lot of fun, a lot of people, really good energy and turnout.
Yeah, I haven't had time to look at any of the pictures or anything, but I've just been so busy today. But I know in like the build up to it, it sounded like it was going to be a pretty massive event. It sounded like there was a lot of effort trying to get as many bodies down there as possible.
The news was there, so there should be something that we can pull up,
Nice.
tomorrow on our stream and like talk about it. But
Yes.
I didn't take a ton of pictures because holding a sign and like a water bottle and trying to take pictures and have a bag, it was becoming annoying.
You got your sign, your water, your selfie stick, trying to take pictures.
But it's a I had a DS9 themed sign, which was the not Nog. What am I trying to say?
Rom?
Who's Rom? Thank you. I was like, who's? Why do I not know this?
Workers of the World Unite.
Yeah. No, he said he was a union man. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yes, so that's cool. That's one of the most pro labor stories in all of Star Trek. I actually just randomly tossed that on TV a few days ago because it was Labor Day, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch the most labor episode of all Star Trek. So there you go. But yeah, speaking of that stream tomorrow, if you are watching us live on Friday, there's going to be a massive celebration of Star Trek the Animated Series on the Tex-Trek YouTube channel tomorrow. Part of mine and Aaron's collaboration of Drawn to Trek and Tex-Trek. We have a really fun guest list. A couple of our Tex-Trek regulars like Rachel and Starfleet Sohel will be around tomorrow, but we also have our friend Jesse Gender coming by, our friend Larry Nemechek, both of whom have been on the show I think on both of our, they've been on Drawn to Trek and
yeah.
And
well, Jesse
Tex-Trek.
co-hosted Drawn to Trek with me for the first season or for the second season.
Aaron Weltke also, Prodigy writer producer Aaron Weltke is coming. Rich Shepis.
Yes, my co-author.
Co-writer of the official guide to the animated series on
which
sale
I just
now
saw
at
was actually
StarTrek.com.
Yeah, like I noticed that it's in the recommended Star Trek Day gifts, so that's kind of cool. And yeah. If you don't have, if they run out somewhere, just in a couple weeks there won't be. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but there'll be more books if you don't have them. Put it that way.
I have something exciting to tell you, Aaron, and that is that at GalaxyCon last weekend, if people recall, I here in Austin, Texas, we had a convention that had several Star Trek actors in attendance, and and Rachel did a panel on Star Trek the Animated Series, which I'm surprised as many people came to that. They put us in a very small room, but we packed that room, so that
It
was
always
cool.
surprises me when people show up
Yeah,
for
and
TAS.
a lot of the crowd I had asked, it was an older crowd. It was most of the people in there were my age or older. But I asked them, like, how many of you have actually watched the animated series? And the majority of the people in there had watched it. If I had conducted the same panel 10 years ago for the 40th anniversary, and I
Oh yeah.
asked how many of you have watched the animated series, it would not have been nearly as many people. So I think the animated
No,
series
there
has
probably
gotten
would be,
more
but it would be the
popular.
three that were people that were there to to watch it.
Yeah, perhaps. But I was showing your book off to the crowd,
Hmm.
and one woman actually asked, "Is that available to buy anywhere in the vendors room here at the convention?" So people
Ah,
are, and I
yeah,
told her, "No, well, wherever you buy your books, you should be able to find it there." And
yeah. Right now,
but
I
yeah,
think
that's
it was sold out on Amazon, but I think there's some on Barnes and Noble. I could check, but it's like there's been so much going on. In fact, I mean, we'll talk about some of this tomorrow, but I did a lot of like miscellaneous TAS stuff for the 50th. It's sort of like it feels very like kind of parts of it. If you see the merchandise that they released today, I did the actual object, like the people and the designs and stuff, but I didn't put them together. So like the layout is not mine, but the parts are mine, which is very hard to explain to people sometimes. Um, so there's a couple I'm like, oh, that's a choice for how to put it together. And we spent a long time like putting some other designs together that haven't been used. So I'm wondering if they're going to be used somewhere later. And I also worked on a Star Trek RPG, the Star Trek Adventures, a Star Trek the Animated Series supplement. So it's available right now on Modifius's website, and
yeah, we're
it's
like this is like breaking news. This is like not something that
yeah.
they've had a time to promote yet. So you've heard it here first.
So yeah, and it's but it's available, and it's a PDF only, so it's not print. But if you want to see it printed, I would suggest that you tell them that because like everybody I told at the strike, they're like, "Oh, I want the physical book of it."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, great."
That
But I
was the
think that was
main
probably
reason why I wanted it. It was
I
like
know.
I just wanted like a cool book to like flip through and look at like
I'm thinking we
cool
could probably
Star
like
Trek stuff.
maybe have it print on demand or something like that. But the I just really enjoyed the artwork on that was probably my favorite because I knew exactly where it was going to go, so I knew how to, I drew it for that spot as opposed to draw something that might be on a bag or on a, a water bottle or what, you have to kind of like have stuff that was very flexible for the product stuff. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun to be able to, we've got Spock 2, so we got this figuring out how to draw a giant Spock was a lot of fun to make him look big.
Just draw everything else smaller.
Well, I did, yeah. But when you see it, But
I'm
yeah,
sure.
no, and Jim, who was my head, I guess he's the head of Modifius, Jim Johnson, and he told me it's like feel free to share the artwork. Obviously, just not the page layouts because then it kind of defeats the purpose of selling it.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
but yeah, so on my Twitter account at Geek Filter, I probably will be posting some of that in the next couple days.
Very cool. Very excited to see that soon. And please everyone, if you are watching this live on Friday, do come back tomorrow afternoon for the TAS 50th anniversary celebration. And kind of a celebration of animated Star Trek overall in general. I think that is going to be a lot of fun, especially with some of those guests we have coming. I know if I didn't have anything to do on Saturday, September 9th, 2023, I would definitely want to watch, Larry Nemechek and Aaron Walke and Jesse Gender. So
And we
please
will
come
be
back and check
talking
it
more
out.
about TAS than they did in the supposedly TAS centric Star Trek Day video. That was a little like
Yeah,
weird.
the short ass like 24-minute video that spent about
Yes.
24 seconds
Well,
on the animated series.
when they were interacting with it, they like made fun of it, and then it was like I think a minute and 12 seconds of sort of, and all of this is leading up to Lower Decks. I'm like, that's not why it was created. But, okay. I mean, I shouldn't
Yeah,
complain because a few years ago it was like just getting one frame of animated Spock onto Star Trek Day was like a major accomplishment.
a milestone well,
Yeah.
with Star Trek, the people in charge don't always do the best job, and when they have their failings, the fan base typically finds opportunities to shine, and like get Star Trek a third season, or get a new spinoff green lit, or eventually find Prodigy a home. Hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. So we'll just do our own big TAS celebration.
Well,
Which
and a
is
lot of
fun.
it isn't, the people who create this is something that because if you look at the Star Trek stuff that's out there for Star Trek Day, a lot of it, except for the one animated poster, all of it doesn't have Prodigy on it. And it's one of those things, like, to me, it makes sense because I'm a marketing person and I work in graphic design. It's like, if you're not having it on your network, you wouldn't promote it. But I think the other thing is, if they promote it, it's a confusing message trying to get some other network to use to purchase it. Because, like, why would you want to buy something that Paramount is actively promoting that's not, it confuses the message, basically. But the people, like the creatives and the people who do all the cool stuff, they're not necessarily making those decisions. They are not making those decisions. Not necessarily. It's like a lot of this is coming from CEOs, and I think pretty much everybody was as surprised as we were that when Prodigy, the people who worked on it didn't even know. So
Yeah, they were definitely caught off guard by that, but everyone's confident the show will find a home.
Yeah.
So we just
So
probably won't know anything for another couple of months. Sounds like it's not anything that will be announced before the end of the year.
And not that it makes any difference me saying it, but it's like don't jump on the people who were, it's not their fault that there's no Prodigy. It's like, and they want it, they want to be celebrating it as much as we do.
Well, with all that out of the way,
Yes.
we got 2 episodes to break
More
down and
animation.
discuss. So let's just dive on in. First up, we got Twovix, the season 4 premiere. So
you have to spell it out because it can be confused with Twovix.
That is true. It's Twovix. So yeah, basically this is Twovix 2, but they merged the words into Twovix, which is very Twovix appropriate.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you're right.
So I'm just gonna quickly recap the episode by reading the official synopsis, and then I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers just to refresh it for everyone. But the official synopsis reads: the Cerritos ensigns must assist a caretaker on the Voyager. I'm sorry. A caretaker on the voyage of a historical significant starship. So I love that they're putting Easter eggs in the synopsis. They put in the word caretaker. They put in the word voyage.
Voyager. Yeah.
If you're watching this episode without knowing anything from trailers or anything, you don't actually know until they show you Voyager that it is going to be
that's true.
A Voyager centric.
And if you didn't watch
episode.
Voyager, I suppose you would know about it. It's a possibility that you might not know what Voyager is, but the way characters react is you probably wow, why are they so excited?
Aaron, I don't know if you want to go first or if you want me to go first, but we should each kind of give our
the entire synopsis. That was all it was.
Oh well, I guess the the entire synopsis is just that one sentence.
Wow.
But,
okay. Normally,
it's pretty much all that.
Than that.
It's not a very eventful episode. They just escort the Voyager. There's some
happens.
People get combined into Twovixes, but they navigate those
in the end with a sentient meatball.
They navigate that moral quandary, and eventually
they kind of cheat.
They get the ship back in one piece thanks to Rutherford's creative use of Neelix cheese.
I did like that they basically pulled out all the weird stuff that happened in Voyager. There's sort of that all came to light through this entire episode.
Yeah, shit got freaky on Voyager. Yep. Are you allowed to say the S word on Drawn to Trek? Is that like a Trek Geeks? I can bleep it out when I edit.
You might have to bleep it out. I'll have to ask, because I know that there's a big thing with Apple Music, and if you say or you don't mark explicit and then somebody finds it, it's then you can, I don't know, get tossed off the platform or something, which is silly. But I mean, not silly. There were times we had a special once where every other word was the F word, and I'm like, oh my god, this is never going to go anywhere. And the person who was sponsoring the show chose that moment to pop on with their children.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I remember when
so
that
went
happened.
well. But yeah.
Well,
So no, but go ahead. Sorry, this is
before we start breaking the episode down, we should each just kind of give our broad thoughts and impressions on it. So, Aaron, do you want to give like the first opening statement? We can just
Sure.
take turns. I'll go first on our next episode. But
Okay.
what was kind of your broad takeaway on Twovix with Twovix?
I had to watch it twice because the first time I watched it, I don't know if I was like in a really bad mood or whatever. I'm just like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. Bleh. I was like, okay, that is not a normal reaction to Lower Decks, and no one else is having that reaction. So like, let me go back. So I did it the next day, and I actually did enjoy it much more. I still don't love the combining part of it, where it's just sort of like they start taking over the entire crew by combining them. That was just weird to me. So it felt like this. I'm an evil now. I don't know. Like just because you're combined doesn't mean that that's going to happen. But I really enjoyed the Voyager stuff. It was cool that the Voyager was basically a guest star. They didn't need any of the people there. You know, they had great little because it's supposed to go back to Earth to become a museum. They have all these little displays, and they have basically mannequins with no facial features of all of the crew, and they got Carrie Kim's hair like just right, and just all these really funny things.
It's so funny they put the hair on the mannequins, but it made them all instantly recognizable, you know.
And I think he had a flute, not a flute, the
clarinet.
Yeah, which later that got
ended up in a macro virus.
Yes. Then they have the macro nanite, which we've had a conversation about, like the giant small thing. So no, I really enjoyed it. I think it was fun. It was a good romp. I like the kind of the idea is this is like, it's like, yeah, the Delta Quadrant was weird. So it hangs a little bit of a lantern on that too. And there is the ethical quandary, although they kind of sidestepped it, about, Twovix, and they straight up said Janeway killed him. So that is one of the episodes that I wish that if I could magically just make it disappear, I probably would, because I'm just tired of hearing about it, the conversation. And a lot of times it's used as like, Lady Captain's bad. So, I don't, the discourse that comes from it can be a little challenging.
But it sounds like it's not even like that big of a debate. It's just, I think people are like really vocal, but like the majority of fans agree that Janeway did. I'm going to trigger a lot of people right now, but like the majority of fans like side with Janeway, like in polls and stuff. It's just like, but I understand, but I think Star Trek should tell like those challenging stories where it's like,
there was no winning solution to that.
Right. Problem. That was the point. Point was to put her in an unwinnable solution. Where there
Kobayashi Maru, if you were.
You just have to like choose like the least shitty of the two options.
Yeah.
So, and obviously it's going to be the one that restores the status quo back to the two actors that you already have like on contract to be series regulars. So
in universe, they also would lose a person, or possibly they need two separate people to have that. They're not a huge crew, and they have lost a couple people. So.
Yeah. But for me, it was the episode was a lot of fun. I think they did a great job showing like a lot of cool fan servicey things on Voyager, but without any of it feeling forced or like inorganic. It makes absolute sense that these characters would be fanboying and fangirling all over the ship and just like having a ball like we are. Like Mariner's cute reaction, like, oh my god, we have to do stuff on Voy, and then like being all embarrassed about it. So yeah,
it's not exactly the same because it's kind of a different situation, but it's like the Titanic. It's like everybody knows about the ship. They know about all this. So for them, it's like it's kind of like that, but the Titanic that came
historic.
Back. Yeah, it's historic.
And much less tragic. So it's like this is like the sad ship that had a happy ending. They eventually
actually
made it
referenced
back home.
The Titanic in one episode when they were talking about Tom Paris was creating like bulkheads that would close off, and he's like, just like the Titanic, and you just see Janeway kind of like look and then kind of turn back. It's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the Titanic sink? It's like, yeah, but that won't happen now. I'm like, oh, that's don't tempt fate.
Well, let's get to our episode breakdown. Just starting with the opening of the episode. They arrive at this mysterious station in the Portello system. Don't really know what the mission's going to be, but we kind of see I guess just to kind of remind us, like, hey, it's been a while since season 3, so here's our characters, here's our lower deckers. They do like the shitty jobs, like clean out the holodeck. We got T'Lyn on the ship now, and we knew about this going into the episode, but there are promotions coming. So Boimler is, for the rest of the episode, he's kind of like on edge, worried about his promotion, and then they do get the reveal of like, oh, the mission is going to be to escort Voyager, and it's gonna go hang out on Earth for a little bit, and then be a museum.
They were happy it wasn't that Romulan stuff.
Yeah, that moment of Freeman and Mariner kind of having like the same reaction is like, oh, this isn't like boring Romulan spy stuff. Again,
that's what I said.
that's like Star Trek fan people. That's like I kind of like Romulan spy stuff, but I know there's someone out there who's like, oh, I hope this isn't a neutral zone episode. I'm so tired of that. Or people are like, oh, like I'm so sick and tired of Klingons. I hope this isn't a Klingon episode. And that kind of attitude.
I love we get like her reaction. It shows some of that excitement. She apparently, pardon me, the excitement that she apparently showed when she was at the Fleet Museum when they're on the Lower Decks crossover talking about it. And it's like, shut up. No, I didn't.
She is
clearly she's super.
She's
excited.
a nerd for historic Starfleet ships. That's a recurring character trait now. They did a really good job. Like the animators up at Titmouse. They are so good at like drawing these backgrounds and making them match the actual sets from the
but not
shows.
looking like they're just traced or duplicate. There's something about it that's like it's still Lower Decks, but it's still exactly Voyager. I don't understand how that happens sometimes.
Yeah, but they did such a beautiful job recreating Deep Space Nine. It's like I'm really hoping in season 5 we do another show. Like we either go to the NX-01 or like we're on a Galaxy class, or like I want to see them draw like more Star Trek sets in Lower Deck style because they're so damn good at it.
That would be cool.
What do you think of our curator character we got, Veljo Tweakle?
He just seems sort of like your standard, kind of worried about his museum basically more than anything. People are secondary, so I don't feel like he didn't have a lot of depth to him. But
it's unfortunate these 2 episodes being released at the same time because the similarities really stand out, and it's like I keep getting the character we meet in the second episode that we're going to talk about tonight, Narj, who runs the menagerie. I keep getting him confused with this guy with Veljo Tweakle. Like
we know that race though, right? Like the
Rigelians, yeah.
The Rigelians,
One of the species that live in the Rigel system. There's probably 2 Rigel systems because there's Beta Rigel also or whatever. But yeah, he's one of them on one of the Rigel systems.
And for the people watching the video, you now have a picture of him holding the Harry Kim mannequin. You can see it looks like Harry Kim somehow.
It's funny when he's holding that mannequin, the Harry Kim mannequin, and he says this is a mission worn uniform. Yeah. It's very like meta. It's like this is like a screen worn wardrobe. Yeah. Like because this is how like collectors. He's very similar like the Collectors Guild that we've seen before.
Maybe he works with them or something. I wouldn't imagine that they probably have some sort of interaction with them at some point because they're going to want something that a collector has.
Yeah, maybe like Starfleet recruits those dudes because like they're so good with all the little details, like we gotta get like the tricorder exactly perfect to what it would have been like in 2372 or whatever.
Rachel asked, did they steal Harry's clothes? That's actually a good question. It's like, why don't they replicate new uniforms basically? Why would they have it?
These uniforms are out of date, so when they got back to the Alpha Quadrant, they all swapped them out for the black and grays, right? So
right, but I mean, assume they would just throw them back into the matter stream. Well, maybe they kept it because it was.
Yeah, you had like these collectors, like no, Ensign Kim, you need to like give me that uniform. It's very valuable. So, I did laugh when he yells at the dude in sickbay for chewing gum. Well, that was funny.
It didn't. I swear somewhere in Star Trek they had mentioned gum, and like nobody
Twice.
knew what it was. Okay.
It was in Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite in Deep Space Nine Season 7. And then it was weird because like O'Brien didn't seem to know what gum was, and Bashir didn't seem to know what it was, and then O'Brien made some whiskey flavored gum.
Which would be interesting. I'm curious to taste that.
Yeah, I hate that he likes Scotch whiskey because I'm like any self-respecting Irishman should drink Irish whiskey instead of Scotch because Irish whiskey is like a billion trillion times better than Scotch whiskey. But anyways, they also mentioned gum in Discovery season 2. It's what Jet Reno was snacking on at some
That's
point
right.
and
Yeah.
used to repair something.
So it's known. Maybe they just didn't know it.
Yeah, maybe just some people are into like old vintage stuff like
I can
chewing
see
gum.
aliens not knowing what gum is. That's fine.
Yeah, like O'Brien and Bashir, like they're pretty they're like Earth boys. They grew
Yeah.
up here. They should be like if
They
anyone
should have,
knows
yeah.
what gum is, it should be them.
Star Trek has that thing where it's like it only seems strange if they need it to sound strange for the plot, and it's kind of funny. Like, there are times when it's just what they know about the past is radically different depending on
Yeah.
which episode that you watch. So
It's also with like the dialogue, like a lot of times in newer Star Trek they'll have very contemporary dialogue, but a lot of older Star Trek would always make like a big point out of whenever they're dealing with
Yeah.
people from current day. It's like, oh, like the lingo is so weird. Like people actually talk like this in the 20th century, you know.
yeah,
Um
it might be just hard to keep that up, I guess, over time.
But we get our setup for the Twovix stuff. They have the Twovix flower, the orchid that caused all the problems for Janeway and crew back in season 2 of Voyager. So the petal from that flower caused the transporter accident that merged Phillips and Ta'ana into
To
Ellipse.
I want to know though. Okay, when Tuvix merged, became into being, he had this weird outfit on because it was like a blend of Neelix's
Right.
clothes and whatever. That doesn't exist here. Like it's, but they are wearing that clothes. I mean, it's funny, but it's like where did
That
they come
bothered
from?
me too. That really bugged me. And then today I heard someone come up with an explanation for it.
Ah,
And that design must come from the flower. It comes
Flower?
from the orchid, and
that makes sense.
it looks kind of floral, I guess.
Yeah.
So
It's got a little bit of fleur-de-lis sort of look to it. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of dumb too. It's like, okay, for some reason that does actually make me feel a little bit better about it. So okay, we'll roll with that. But
Bioneural
guess-
gel packs. I always like those. I don't know why that they never kept going with that.
Yeah, let's stick a pin in the Ellipse stuff for now, and it's just we'll talk about like the macro virus on Voyager, and then we'll switch back to the Cerritos in a moment. But yeah, the problems on Voyager start when Mariner accidentally discovers a long lost macro virus from the season 4 episode Macrocosm hiding behind a bioneural gel pack in the, I guess, in the wall inside of the bridge.
And for people who don't know, a bioneural gel pack is basically an organic version of an isolinear chip or something like that.
I always thought it was weird, like, because they just do it on Voyager and like none of the other shows ever do it. But
yeah, that's I don't know.
Starfleet
It feels like-
experiments.
Yeah, and it feels like
guess.
that makes sense. Having a biological thing gives you many more options for storage, and like that's probably why they didn't have to dump their files into some other hard drive so the ship didn't, run out of space or whatever, just because this
Yeah.
that, and it's also supposedly, it's faster than the chips, but does it? I've always heard that they had like FTL processing or something like that, so I don't know how you can be faster than that. But yeah, they're very cool though, I think.
Yeah, and the macro virus itself, like I always loved that episode Macrocosm. I know, like it's kind of like a schlocky action movie, but I think it's okay to be that every now and then. Is like
we had a musical. I don't think we have to like it could be anything at this point.
Yeah, like I thought it was fun seeing like Janeway turn into Ellen Ripley for a single episode.
What I love about this is that everybody's been inoculated, so this isn't really dangerous. It's
Right.
just causing a disaster.
Yeah, so this is a lot of Lower Decks tends to be like kind of like harmless episodes because like the jokes aren't as funny if it's real lethal. There's a death in the next episode we're going to talk about, and it kind of stands out because it's kind of a rare move for the show. But yeah, Boimler he drops the ball when like all he had to do was like stop this macro virus from running out of the bridge, and he just like ducks down and lets it fly past him. It's like, come on, man, you had one job. And this is the day like you're trying
they're
to.
terrifying though in real life. Honestly,
They
it's
are
like if that was
scary,
flying at
but
me, I don't know how I would stop it, but okay.
I mean, it can't infect you. It doesn't seem like it can actually
No,
like
I
do
don't think it would
anything.
feel great though if it had the little stinger thing going to you.
Yeah, I wouldn't want like that slime to like get on
Oh,
my
that too.
face or like get in my mouth, like what happens to Mariner later. That sounds gross, but I also liked when Ransom and Kayshawn kind of have like that bonding moment where
Yes.
when Ransom says the Shaka when the walls fell, and Kayshawn he gave the what is it like the what's his name? His eyes open. It's one of the original ones from Darmok. It's like sometimes they say his eyes uncovered, or sometimes it's like his eyes open. But it's like, oh, you finally get it.
Something. Yeah, I don't remember the name now.
But Ransom kind of stands out as like a good commander in these episodes. Like he
It's
gets to know his
interesting 'cause
crew.
That was when the things that we wanted to see. I had mentioned that I think it was like would be great to see have him be more than just working out, like have it give him some more personality, and so it's like it feels like we're actually getting that, which is nice.
Yeah, you said that 2 weeks ago. If people go back and listen to either Drawn to Trek number 12 or Tex-Trek number 256, then yeah, you hear the top 5 things we wanted in season 4, and one of Aaron's was he wanted more development with Ransom. So I think we are going to get that just based on these 2 episodes.
Yeah. And before I knew it, I wanted them to get promoted. It was like, oh, okay, that's happening. Great.
The catfish things from Threshold that are on display in the corridor. We were talking about like why would you have like these very like phony looking mechanical animatronics when you could just make like a photorealistic hologram with these hollow emitters that are all throughout the ship. But I love these things so much. It's hard for me to complain about them. They're just,
my headcanon is that they
funny.
are actually going to be for sale in the Voyager gift shop.
Yeah.
So they're showing off the mechanical toy that you can get.
Yeah.
See, they get branding, Rachel.
Yes, unlike in real life where we're all dying for a Murph plush or a Moopsie now. But yeah, these yes, I know they're salamanders, not catfish. They're neither. They're highly evolved humans, but then the real fun starts, I guess, when the macro virus somehow accidentally bumps into the computer screen and turns on a bunch of holograms with the holodeck safety protocol set to random.
That makes me laugh every time. It's like holodeck safety random, just the way it says it.
Which that shouldn't even be an option. But then like Rutherford's reaction, like, no, set them to safety.
Yeah.
Yes, you always want the safety set to safety. But yeah,
hilarious.
that was it was fun to see these characters, but like my immediate reaction was like, well, wait a minute, Chaotica and the Fairhaven husband, they're both holograms, but that clown's no hologram, and they even have Mariner point that out, like, the clown's not even a hologram. It's like, well, he is now.
Well, if they also were going to have holograms of other things, they would have that, it's like, yeah, some of them were originally holograms, but this isn't, but that's why, they had that in the buffer or something. It's like, maybe they do a thing where they show all of the trials that Voyager went through, and he pops up. So he wasn't originally a hologram, but he is now.
This thing is the embodiment of fear for like an entire planet. Like that'd be like a something you'd want to have information on in a museum, I would think. So his joke was pretty funny when Boimler is like, "Oh my God, these are some of Voy's deepest cuts." Again, like they bring back the thing from season 2 where he calls Voyager Voy.
Which, yeah.
But then like the clown is like, not as deep as my cuts, and he's running around with a knife trying to murder people. So
and then we get 2 Michael Sullivans. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So well, you get a bunch of clowns too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes from bad to worse when the macro virus gets assimilated by a leftover Borg nanite that got missed somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then it becomes a macro nanite, which it sounded like Mike McMahan was very, very proud of. Yeah, the micro, the macro nanite with Harry Kilm's clarinet sticking out of it in Voyager's cargo bay 2. Yeah, that just screams like, okay, this is Lower Decks doing Voyager.
Well, when I talked to Mike, he's just like, I said how funny we thought that was. He goes, that's my sense of humor in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah, and then you have everyone being captured by multiple clowns from the Thaw, multiple Michael Sullivans. Poor Mariner being like, delete this guy. So yeah, it's up to Boimler to save the day. Everyone gets captured but Boimler, and then there's like that. It's really funny. There's like the shot of like Boimler cowering in the cargo bay. Everyone else is getting dragged out, and then you just see like the salamander / catfish. I think catfish is funnier to say, but yeah, you see that creature just waddling down the corridor with the Borg macro nanite hooked up to it, like. Yes, it's like
what
the
did it
Borg.
assimilate? It has to have biology in there too. It seems like, but
Yes, it's whatever it was easy for the Borg to hack and take
That's
over
true.
and set a
Yeah.
course for the nearest Borg cube. So it's the Borg are not. I guess the Borg don't have pride. They're not above assimilating a salamander robot that looks ridiculous and crawling down the corridor to the bridge to take command of the ship like that. Like, you look really dumb for like the biggest menace in all of the Star Trek universe. It's not your best look, but the Borg don't care. They don't let that stop them. So good
I
for
wonder
them,
if
I
the
guess.
closest Borg cube was that cube that we actually see in Picard.
Yeah, the artifact, which
Yeah.
might be the same cube that we see in Prodigy, and according
Mm-hmm.
to Prodigy writer producer Aaron Welke, it
Oh,
likely
okay.
is.
Cool.
And they did encounter that near Romulan space, so it makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I liked when I guess the chips are down when everyone is captured but Boimler. It's kind of convenient that they just like didn't see him hiding behind some cargo crates or whatever.
Yeah.
But I liked the emotional beat after that when Boimler's first reaction was like, "I got to go free Mariner," and Mariner's like,
Yeah.
"You don't need me. You can do this on your own." And he's like, "Well, I didn't want to mess up because I was worried about being promoted, but now like I think that's unimportant because I don't want to mess up our friendship and all this stuff." And she's like, "You idiot, I'm the one who wanted you to be promoted and you don't need me. Go figure this out on your own." So that was kind of cool, except his actual solution is like, well, he does need someone else. He just needed an engineer and not Mariner.
Yeah. I do like when after they have it's a good emotional moment. It's like, hey, like, no, I'm not. This is a completely different situation than the Titan. Don't worry about it. We're good. And have faith in yourself, essentially. And so, so he pats her on the head and goes like, "Did you pat me on the head?" It's like, "Yeah, I did. Sorry, it was weird. Bye."
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes like, oh, this will be like a cute little fun thing to do, and you're like, oh my god, that was cringy and awkward. I should never do
Yeah.
that again. So I liked that. It felt it
was
rang
great.
true.
It felt very real. Yes.
Let's
Starfleet Sohel says Boimler looks cuter this season. Is that weird?
I think you just haven't seen him in a while, so hell. But I don't know. Maybe they. I haven't noticed any like new like facial animations or anything on anyone yet in season 4. But sometimes like in a new season they do add new
Yeah.
little animations. But I feel like they all have like a pretty wide range at this point. Let's beam back from Voyager to the Cerritos for just a little bit and talk about the Twovix stuff with
Yes.
all of the creating the Twovix army, and then we'll talk about the ending. But Nurse Westlake comes back. Remember him? He's not on the show a ton, but I guess they needed someone to do like the medical exposition, and they had to Illips, like, Ta'ana's not around, so they had Nurse Westlake do it. So that's the guy who in the very first episode when Tindy goes to sickbay and she's like, "I'm supposed to report to Nurse Westlake," and Ta'ana's like, "This is Nurse Westlake," when he's all zombified.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he basically like explains for like people who didn't watch it or don't remember, like, yeah, like the whole Tuvok and Neelix merged together thing. They bring back some of those same type of issues that were addressed in the original Tuvix episode, like, what happens if you have like a romantic partner, like Shax, like Kess, and it's like, how many of those physical memories do you have? So that's another interesting thing. Like, do these people remember everything? Like when they get like unmerged, will Billup still like remember whatever Shax was embarrassed about
Yeah,
him
I don't
knowing.
know.
Like
Real-
that's also awkward.
for people not for people listening. This isn't going to make any sense, but the image that's currently up on the screen, it's very strange. They don't normally do this. The line of Shaq's uniform exactly lines up with the line of T'Illip's. So it looks like it's just one long piece of yellow, and like the T'Illip's coat is sort of floating in it. It's a very weird effect.
That is weird.
Normally they're better about that because that is something you like learn to like, okay, if it's almost lined up, it looks accidental, but if you move it one way or another, up or down, then it's okay. Oh, it's on purpose. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know what I thought was funny was when they show like a shot of Captain Freeman staring at her pad. She's like looking up, what did Janeway do with Twovix? And it just says Twovix status deceased. Because that's what it says on his Memory Alpha page. If you go look it up on Memory Alpha, it says status deceased. But I feel like they do a pretty fair job of handling like the whole like Twovix debate. Like like it is kind of harsh to be like, yeah, Janeway like straight up murdered this guy, but like they I feel like they kind of play fair, but they also, they give her credit. They're like, well, she was stranded in the Delta Quadrant. She had to make tough choices. She didn't have resources like we have. Like, obviously, yeah, we can go to Starfleet. We can go to Starfleet Command, the best doctors in the galaxy. They'll figure something out, right? So, we don't have to like make a decision on our own here on the Cerritos. Which the funny thing with that was when they smash cut from Freeman just being like, I just hope Mr. T'Illips didn't look this up too. And then Mr. T'Illips being like, oh, fuck that. I'm not letting them kill me. And good continuity here. They have T'Illips is in Billips's quarters because you can recognize it from where in season 2, we saw him almost lose his virginity in this room, but it had like that same like display of the Cerritos above his bed. But it makes sense that they do this in Billips's quarters because he would have like the engineering know-how. It also kind of makes sense that okay, they took their medical expert and their engineering expert off the board. So like the two people who might have been able to figure out like a Twovix solution.
That's true.
Through like transporters or medical whatever, like they wouldn't have them as a resource to use.
Yeah.
But he can use his engineering. It's also weird, like how do we gender these characters? Like they keep saying like Mr. T'Illips. So they call him a him in the episode. So I guess
it should be a they at that point. Literally they, like more than one.
Yeah, but then like some of them like come off as like the Captain Freeman Miglimo hybrid that T'Illips creates. It comes off as like more feminine.
Very feminine, yeah.
Migliman, which is
like that. Yeah.
It's funny to say. It's like I can imagine like that personality type, just like Miglimo and Freeman, just like both of them have been like so like well defined after 4 seasons. It's like like combining the two of them, I get exactly how that person would be, and it is weird as hell, but it still kind of makes sense, And then I liked in the Cerritos bar when you just have T'Lyn, like her drink of choice is water, room temperature, like the most like plain, boring beverage possible. And
also room temperature, like ugh.
Yeah, why wouldn't you want like your water chilled? That seems weird. But Vulcans they come from a really hot planet. So
it's too spicy that way.
Like room temperature on a Starfleet ship might be like cold to them.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Do you think they're setting up like a story arc where like Tindy is gonna try to make T'Lyn like, I want you to like be my friend and choose the Cerritos over your Vulcan life, and basically like it seems like T'Lyn is very like impartial on the she's very indifferent, like she doesn't care about anyone there.
It also feels like she's very I'm here so I can get back. Yeah, exactly. It's like this is the step to me coming back to where I was. I also feel like there's a little bit of an echo of Neelix and Tuvok, where Mr. Neelix is always trying to, Mr. Vulcan, and trying to be his friend, and Tuvok is like, I am not interested.
Which has a beautiful payoff in seasons. Like watch their meeting in the first episode when Neelix beams aboard and he's just like, nice to meet you, Mr. Vulcan, and how like Tuvok just like can't stand that guy. Like, watch that scene and then watch like their final interaction when
Yeah.
Tuvok dances. It's like that's beautiful. I love that's one of my favorite things in all of Star Trek. But yeah, I would love to see something like that between the two of them. And Tendi is so sweet and more likable for a lot of people, I think, than Neelix was. I'm not a Neelix hater either, but like I think Tendi is just going to appeal to a broader range of people. So
Yeah,
it's like,
I can
how
see
can you
that.
say no to being friends with Tendi? She's so sweet. Come on, T'Lyn. But yeah, I think they're setting up an arc. You know, I think maybe even she'll leave eventually, kind of like how Mariner left, and then
Oh,
be like,
yeah.
oh, I actually want to go back to the Cerritos or something like. I think at some point
It
she
could
will
be.
choose the Cerritos over going back to her Vulcan life.
Probably.
I'd like
Or
to see
maybe
that.
maybe a third choice that we don't know.
Oh yeah, it's kind of the Star Trek thing is to find like that third option. You know, here's an impossible situation. Like, oh, we conveniently found something else. But see, if you do that, then that's kind of like a cop out. If you don't do that and do like the Tuvix thing, then you piss a lot of people off. So it's like, no matter what you do, someone's going to be annoyed, I guess.
Yeah, it's like I just say that our fandom is great and kind of annoying at the same time.
Yeah, I always say we have the best fandom in the world. It's not a perfect fandom though.
Yeah.
But there is no perfect fandom. But I get what you're saying about it. It comes off as like really weird that they would be so like evil and aggressive with their sinister plot to take over the ship.
I guess it's not really evil, but there's just something odd about it. Like Sohail had mentioned that it's like it takes you right to the line of like I'm uncomfortable with this, and then backs off. And I kind of maybe was what I was feeling.
But I think that they're trying to play fair with the whole Tuvix debate, which is kind of above the pay grade of the animated comedy of Star Trek, to be perfectly honest. Like they didn't
above
need
the pay
to,
grade
like,
of live action, it seems like too.
Yeah, like you didn't need to like take this like that seriously and like honestly try to like tackle it fairly. So it was kind of a bold move to even attempt that, and I think they pulled it off pretty well. But you know, if you are on team like Tuvix deserve to live, it's like, okay, well, where do you draw the line then? What if they start like merging everyone else on the ship? What if they're trying to like merge you? You know, like, oh, well, you get merged, and now you're just gonna have to live as like this merged being.
Yeah. Also,
now.
that for all their wanting to be considered a sentient being, it's like that person didn't give permission to be merged with somebody else. You literally just if that's what you were going to keep, you've killed that other person. So it's you've killed two people instead of one.
Yeah, Joel in our live audience. I see Joel in our live audience is asking who was Shax combined with, and he's actually combined with Barnes the Trill. They call this creature Shabarnes, and you can see her trill spots on the neck area. So kind of a Trill Bajoran hybrid. But it is scary when they're just like snatching people. Like I don't want to be merged with someone.
Yeah.
I don't want to like, get combined, and so that's kind of scary. And then like T'Lyn springing into action, like kind of like the first true like T'Lyn episode, they let her be useful and but it ends up being like a collaboration between her and Tendi when it's all said and done. And I guess Tendi kind of
take care. Oh, sorry, when they get control of the transporter.
I liked her reaction to Illips when like Illips figured out like what they were doing, like, oh, they're taking over the transporters, and she kind of gives like the sassy look. Like she really is the Vulcan Mariner. It's just like, what if you just dialed Mariner down to 1% to be to be passable as a
on some
Vulcan.
sort of medication.
Yeah, which is like just like the slight little look that she gives to Illips as she does like the Star Trek transporter thing and slides her hands on the controls, which is very cool. Something like James Doohan was doing back in the 60s. Which is like the slightest little bit of attitude, which if you're a Vulcan is probably like, oh my god, that's so extreme, but for us it's like, oh, that's
and I was really
so
happy
Vulcan-y.
that it actually worked and it wasn't like something happened and it didn't work, because that happens a lot in shows where they're like, oh, we think we've got it, and then you don't. But it was nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I also love her haircut. That looks like the oh shoot, what's the
Valeris?
Valeris, yeah. What was
I
know this.
I should
Apparently
know
I don't right now. Sex and the City. Oh well, we will figure it out. But anyway, yeah. Oh, Kim
That
Cattrall. That
Kim
is
Cattrall, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, how did I forget that? Like they even have a song in Mystery Science Theater. Kim Cattrall, Kim Cattrall.
I just kept thinking like she always plays like those sex kitten type characters.
Yeah.
But
But I just love that she has that kind of echo of that character. Valeris kind of had a little bit of sass.
yeah, that's true. Hopefully Talin doesn't turn out to be as traitorous. Star Trek
Yes.
6 spoilers. But like when they get them all like merged into a meatball, like okay, so say like you wouldn't like unmerge them to like stop them from their attack, but then what if they all get combined to like one giant like non-sentient meatball? Like, are you okay then like restoring them? Like at some point you're gonna break down and be like, okay, like I think it'd be okay to like undo this creature and bring them back to normal, right?
And
So.
and when there's a lot like you can take this as deep as you want to go with like echoing something currently happening in society or just science fiction. There's a whole level of range of stuff that we don't want to get into that you could use as an example.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think what they did is good. It a little bit of a cop out, but I'm fine with it.
But they really use it as this kind of an exploration of the Tendi and Talin dynamic of what they're setting up for season 4, I think, because they even kind of have like Tendi kind of like make the case for emotion and like getting to know your crew and like getting to know their emotions, because she's like, oh look, I can identify all these different personalities because of the familiarity I have with them. So maybe that's I think they're constructing an arc for Talin, which I'm excited about. That was one of the things I wanted in season 4 is I wanted a lot of Talin. I wanted her to basically become the 5th main character or the 5th regular character on the show. So yeah, with these 2 episodes, I felt like she had like a really large presence. So kudos, just keep that up the rest of the season. You have anything else on the
very shy or like kind of like when they're unmerged, like
right? Like
let's not talk about this.
Yeah, what do you know from like that other person's like I don't know, like their innermost thoughts or secrets or whatever? Like that's got to be a pretty surreal experience to have. I don't know anything in real life that would be quite like that. You have anything else on the T'Ellip stuff before we go back to Voyager?
No, I think I'm pretty good with it.
Okay, so on Voyager, Boimler saves the day by rescuing Rutherford. It's kind of funny when Ransom's like, "Hey, come back and you save the rest of us," but like that promotion is getting less and less likely, Mister. But
that actually is what he did was right. Like if those people, if you needed just those people and you don't take the time to pull them down, also like go.
Yeah, he's like, no, like I need the guy who's going to figure out how to break the ship, and that's going to be the engineer. So I needed. It
might be
cheese.
Safer that way either, just as well.
Yeah, leave them there in astrometrics. But
I don't think I noticed that before. It's like the mechanical salamander is sitting in the captain's chair.
Yes, it takes the captain's chair when it sets the course for like the Borg cube. So it's basically like putting itself. And Borg do this. We saw the. We saw the Borg take over one of the characters on Star Trek Picard season 3 and then sit down in the captain's chair.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing. But I liked Boimler's distraction where he's just like, I'm just gonna go up to Dr. Chaotica and tell him I'm Captain Proton's son and distract him. And it works.
Was great.
Rutherford's able to gum up the works with the cheese, which it's also funny when the holograms start fritzing out, and I for whatever reason it makes me laugh whenever I hear that clown say, "What the hell is wrong with you, Chaotica?" Like I don't know, it's just something you're not going to hear in real life.
Oh yeah, that's true. For some reason, I thought he said it to himself. I don't know why, but I love it's something that we didn't. I mentioned before. It's like Michael Sullivan can be heard. It's like, I miss my wife.
Oh yeah.
At one point.
Yeah, because Janeway deleted his wife.
Yeah.
It just him was just like the stereotypical, I don't know, like Irish romantic figure. Just like, I love you, but I can't be with you.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
horrible bad accents. Yeah.
I'm not crazy about the Fairhaven episodes of Voyager. I think they're very I don't want to say like they're very bad, but they're bad.
the concept of it is a good idea. Like if you're stranded out there and like you would at one point like, okay, let's have some sort of open door policy for something because like this is our life, this is our world. So if we can go out into like an Irish countryside or something, that's kind of cool. But the people were way too
Yeah,
stereotypical.
don't show that episode to any Star Trek fan who lives in Ireland, and
Oh,
they'll
right.
just
No, I know.
they hate it. And it's one of my
You've seen my Irish Irish Day, my St.
St.
Patrick's
Patrick's Day.
post where it's like talking about how awful all of the Irish stereotypes are in
Yeah.
Star Trek, going all the way back to TOS,
Yeah, it's been a little rough.
where the only
but
good one was Molly, her Janeway's Irish setter.
my
'Cause we don't think he was
lifelong
the
goal my lifelong goal is to show the episode Fairhaven, I think, or maybe Spirit Folks, but one of those I want to show it to Colum Meaney and
Oh,
just
no.
get his, because I'm assuming he's never seen it, so
Probably
I
not.
want to get his reaction.
You
But,
could show it to yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Well, I like that the curator is so like pissed off, but he's also like, now I have to add another exhibit. So it's like we got like one last Voyager story, right? Like if you go look at the USS Voyager Memory Alpha page, it's gonna have like a new paragraph in there, like about like one time like the ship got taken over by a Borg macro nanite, and Boimler and Rutherford had to break the ship with Neelix's
how
cheese.
Their picture looks like like smile, like just like it was done really quickly or something.
Oh
at the
yeah,
end of the
yeah.
mission.
They look like they're posing for a picture in the picture that's on display.
Yeah.
That is, I didn't notice that, but you're right. That is pretty funny. That's like another little subtle layer of realism. And just seeing the ship, on the ground at Starfleet HQ
Yeah.
next to the Golden Gate Bridge. It matches up to how they described it in that alternate future in Endgame.
A lot of that came true. So that's. I like the little the stanchions that have the Starfleet symbol from their badges at the time.
Like most of the time in the fandom, we call that the Voyager comm badge.
Yeah,
which I kind of.
But it was also used in DS9, right?
Yeah, it actually first came out in DS9. DS9 Season 3, The Search Part 1, right? When they first go into the Gamma Quadrant and meet the Dominion.
So.
But yeah, that's the first time that ever appears on screen. Because they made that comm badge for Star Trek Generations. They didn't like the TNG ones they didn't think it would look good on movie screens. So they came up with this new comm badge. But in the fandom, it's often referred to as the Voyager comm badge because it was on all 7 seasons of that show. But
Joel was asking if the Voyager was parked where the Bird of Prey was in Star Trek 4, and I don't believe so. I think that's Golden Gate Park, which is on the other side of the. Assuming this is by Starfleet Academy, this is on the other side of the bay.
It's like the Academy is on one side and the HQ is on the other side.
Yeah.
But I don't know which
it
one
depends
is
on what. Yeah, sometimes it seems like it moves, and that
around.
building that they had at Starfleet Academy, like sometimes has this giant like 3-story thing connected to it that looks like the 1964 World's Fair because Doug Drexler created it, and then 2 years later it's not there, and it's just like it's always morphing. Like, and if you look at the aerial views from any of the new ones from Picard or Discovery, it's constantly changing. I love that Tilly in one of the episodes like, this tree's been here for 900 years. I'm like, no, it hasn't. Actually,
no, it hasn't.
We've never seen it before.
Yeah, that's aggravating. It's like y'all couldn't have just like put that anywhere like else. Like y'all couldn't just like gone out like just 200 yards in any direction and like just say that's where the tree is. Like whatever.
They put it into molecular storage while they rebuilt areas or something like that, and then they'll. Like in a transporter.
They put it in the quantum archive that Picard had
there you go.
In Picard season 1. That must Is
that like the quantum realm from Ant-Man?
I mean, it's probably not as bizarre, but yeah, I guess you just I guess you could kind of think of that as like a microscopic universe where you can store stuff.
A pocket universe, yeah.
I think it's just kind of like stored, like it's just like a transporter buffer. It's kind of how I always thought of it, but
that makes sense.
We have the promotion ceremony to close
which
out
happens
the episode.
over California, which is kind of cool. They're in orbit around, and like California's down there.
Oh yeah, maybe they're like geosynchronous with Starfleet HQ or something.
Yeah, that could be.
Um, but I like Boimler, like being all excited when he got his pip, like pointing to it on his collar.
Which is like
T'Lyn-
kids when they graduate and they point at their hat or the
Yeah.
degree or whatever.
T'Lyn having the total opposite reaction, like she was just 0 F's given when she got
She
her
says like
rank
unexpected,
up.
but appreciated or something like that.
And Tindy really wasn't expecting hers. You know, she's been on the ship shorter than
Yeah.
most of the people we know. Like the first episode was literally like her arriving, and we know that at that point Boimler and Mariner had already been serving together for a year. So
Okay.
it took them like
Yeah,
a
I didn't
couple
know
of
exactly
years
how long
to
they've been on there.
rank up to lieutenant. And then Mariner's reaction, where she even like tries to like give the pip back, and Ransom just being like, "No, we're not going to do that." But
I'm not playing your game.
Boimler reminding Mariner and also like the audience at home, like, okay, we just like barely ranked up. We're still junior officers. We're still lower decks. It's still like the same concept of the show. Like, don't worry. Like, we're just slightly not as low as we were.
Yeah, yesterday I was like in the chat room. I said it's like they're lower, but not the lowest decks. So it's just like they're still down there.
I was very
Hopefully,
happy to see
Delta
them.
shift is the lowest at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna see like other people move up. Like, are we gonna see like the Delta shift people get promoted, or what about like the red shirts, like Castro and Taylor and those types? Like, are we gonna see
Kazinti.
them rank up?
Yeah.
But I was very happy to see this. I said on the show at some point over the years, like, there's no reason why they couldn't all just get promoted to lieutenant junior grade and just the
Yeah.
show continue the same premise, same everything, and they're just one rank slightly higher. And that finally happened. So I didn't know if it ever would. Glad to see that it happened. Looking
I think
forward.
that we were pretty worried, at least when Jesse and I were talking about it, early on. It's like, let's hope that this just doesn't become static, where it's just like the status quo resets because it kind of reset in season 2. And it was like a little bit worrisome. We're just gonna get the same stuff over and over again.
It resets hard in season 2, and like and that was the thing, is like Mike was saying, like, oh, Boimler's not gonna come straight back to the Cerritos in season 2. He's gonna stay on the Titan for a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, he stays on the Titan for like 1 episode.
Yeah.
But still, like, the show was, I think, still trying to figure out. I mean, like, at that point, like, they didn't even know, like, okay, we're doing 2 seasons. Are we ever gonna get to do more? Like, I think now they have a better idea of where they're and Mike even kind of talks like it sounds like he might even have like a plan. He talks about like, yeah, I kind of want to do like, I think 7 seasons is a good number, and it's like, I feel like he's got things like a little mapped out now. So we don't know how long the show is gonna run. I mean, we know we have like season 5 coming next year. We don't know how much of that is where they are in production of that, and that's kind of a weird situation. But shouldn't be affected too much. Just I don't know if like the strikes are going to be over, if like actors are going to be busy on like other projects or what. Like, it's possible there's like delays and shifts in season 5, but more than likely we'll get season 5 around this time of year next year. What happens after that, no one knows, but I think it sounds like there's a lot of faith in Lower Decks. They to be fair, like, Paramount is like, that is one product they are like trying to push. They're trying to really get it out there. They're showing it in theaters right now. They're showing these episodes.
It's like, as annoying as I am about, like, it's the 50th anniversary of the animated series, so we'll show a lot of Lower Decks. It's like, it does make sense, and it's sort of like, it's showcasing modern animation, and it's sort of like a gateway. So, if you're an old school Star Trek fan, I know the reaction to this show sometimes is negative, being that they talk too fast. The stuff that they actually mentioned in the Lower Decks the Lower Decks Strange New Worlds crossover, that so hopefully kind of bridging the gap a little bit, like, oh, maybe I'll give it a second chance or something like that. So, and it seems like new people coming into the franchise really enjoy it.
Yeah,
which is weird because, like, for me, it's
that's
like,
weird to
how
me
do you
too.
enjoy this? Like,
Right,
how do
that's
you
what
not
I
understand
thought.
what's
Like,
going on at all?
I was like, oh, this is like the most like insidery Star Trek show at all. But it turns out it has like a lot of appeal. Like people watch it and they're like, oh my God, there's like cetacean ops is a thing. Like, how can I learn more about that? Like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like they like everyone on the Enterprise got like drunk off of this virus and we're like trying to like have like an orgy or something. I mean, that's not exactly what happened in the Naked Tub, but you know, like it strikes up a bunch of like curiosity. Like, you know,
People
people
stuck
will
in a
watch
dystopian San Francisco in the middle of a riot.
like if you've never watched Voyage, you're like, wow, they had like the ship got like infected with cheese, and there's like these
Yeah.
giant viruses flying around, and there's
That's true. If you never saw Voyager, I don't know what your opinion would be if it based on this.
yeah, I'd be curious to hear from those people and be like, does that make you want to watch more Voyager?
That's true. I didn't even think about that. It might, because it's like, oh, this is so weird. I want to see this.
You know, the episode ends with just reminding us like that it's still lower decks. We're still going to chant lower decks at the end of episodes. And,
we did mention Boimler's rooms. He kept getting put into.
Oh, that's in the next episode.
Oh, sorry. You're right. I have moved too fast.
Yeah, the ending of Twovix, Twovix is that we get.
I think my brain's like, it's 6:15. We're done. You know, we're wrapping up.
We're halfway done.
Yeah.
We get instead end with returning to the Klingon ship, the Cheetah, and we catch up with Grek and Kalor. I believe they're the names of these two Klingon lower deckers that are arguing over, you know, like sharpening your spear next to my bunk when I'm trying to sleep and stuff like that.
Spear's a coward's weapon, or whatever.
Yeah, it felt like a very like Klingon conversation. But then we come across the mysterious threat that we can blame Rutherford when he was like, and no mysterious threats. Like whenever you say that, you know, that's something not to say if you're in a TV show.
Well, it's like this last year, and they said like, no, I hate cliffhangers or whatever, and then we got the Klingon we've seen Peanut Amber and Magamus, I guess. No, we didn't know. No, it was just a green beam.
Yeah, the green beam was like that post-credit tease and at the end of season 3. But yeah, that was Badgie that we don't know. We don't really know exactly what's going on with this like mysterious little ship thing, but like the teasers have shown it off. The next episode shows it do basically the same thing, but with a Romulan ship instead of a Klingon ship.
What's interesting is like the way the beam sweeps through, and a couple other people have said this too, is like maybe they're not dead, they're like being like almost digitized or stuck into it, some sort of buffer or something like that.
I don't know
but the ships are destroyed.
Yeah, it seems weird to me that like it would destroy the ships then and keep the. I think it's actually killing them. I think it's blowing them up, but I don't know why. But yeah, I was sad. I liked the Klingon Boimler. You know, basically like Voyage Douge gave us Vulcan Mariner with Talen, and then it gave us Klingon Boimler with Ma'a. But you know, like the little guy who his heart was in the right place, and he was able to work his way up the ranks and ascend to captainhood. And I was like whoever is like the one life form in this ship that I don't maybe it's evil Boimler, transporter clone Boimler. We know he's working with Section 31 now, so possible. I don't know who. Like I don't think Badgie would be detectable as a life form. I don't know who is in that, but I'm mad at them if they murdered this Klingon dude I really liked from season 2. But that would be. But I think that's good storytelling should make you feel anger at bad guys so that you're happy when they're defeated. So I'm okay with that.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else on
no,
Twovix.
I think it feels like I think we've covered everything.
I do have the
until we're done with the show, and then we'll remember something.
I have the Gorn egg section of the show where we go over the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections. But I was going to save that to the end and do all the Twovix ones and the I have no bones yet I must flee. Gorn eggs at the same time because we got that episode to talk about as well. So, why don't just to go into that one? I will again recap it by reading the official synopsis, and I'll kind of expand on that with spoilers. But the official synopsis reads: Mariner tries to get demoted, Rutherford tries to get promoted, and Boimler makes a big move. Yes, we have Mariner tries to get demoted by being the biggest asshole possible to Ransom on a mission, and actually at some point has concerned Ransom that she might have unlocked a deadly monster from its captivity. But they're able to put their differences aside and work together and resolve that situation. And while that's going on, Rutherford gets promoted, or tries to get promoted so he can move out of the hallway with all of his friends, and eventually he does, and him and Boimler become roommates. So I guess I'll start like the opening statements and kind of say like my broad feelings on this one, and then I'll ask you, Aaron, how you feel about it. But
Okay.
I didn't. It's kind of unfair to compare these episodes because Lower Decks is kind of it's a more episodic show, kind of that Strange New Worlds type thing, and these episodes do kind of deserve to stand alone as their individual stories. But I didn't like this one quite as much. I'm really curious about what they're doing with the slow burn reveal of the mystery ship, the mysterious threat. I kind of like we're just gonna see like a little bit of that every week, but it's not gonna like totally take over the story. They can still do these standalone stories
Until like the last 2 episodes or something.
Yeah, I'm happy to see that as like a slow burn. I like that they're adding like these people that have a lower rank than our character. We're getting like Ensign Livick and Ensign Gary, and like I'm kind of hoping that they'll become recurring characters. So we are seeing some change. We are seeing some growth. The status quo shifted, so that's good to see. There and like the last episode though, like they're both these episodes had me really concerned about like a joke. Like, are they just gonna make like so many jokes about Janeway murdered this guy? Like, is that just gonna be like the only? They're just gonna like keep making the same joke like over and over again the whole episode. I was relieved when that did not happen, and here I was like, you're telling me that like there's no way to stop this blinding light from your warp nacelles from like blinding you in your quarters. Like, that's kind of dumb. This is like an old joke from like this is a Star Trek shit posting meme of like certain ships, like certain designs, like your window is right next to like a glowing Bizarre collector or something, or like the glowing deflector dish. But I was like, okay,
the same as with the room in the middle of the holodeck and the room with no soundproofing and stuff. Like, that's none of that's realistic. That's not. This is where it like doesn't feel like this is what I would be worried about when it first came out before I'd seen it. Those kind of jokes consistently, because it's just like you play within the universe and make that funny. Don't create some sitcom type trope thing and use that.
But they did
be a room
fix
in
it by
between
the
two
end.
holodecks either. That was just dumb.
I gotta assume that Boimler also like didn't know how to turn the soundproofing switch on. Also,
oh, maybe they're like the noise canceling headphones, and you didn't have it on the right setting.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, I felt better by the end of the episode. So it just kind of like Moopsy being like this cute little thing just rolling around slowly, but it's also supposed to be like this really like sinister threat. It's like I kind of just saw that with like that chubby salamander waddling down the corridor. And then, like, oh, this guy running the menagerie, he's a lot like the guy running the museum ship, and there's like a lot of like overlap like that, which I thought was like a little unfortunate. But overall, so I had like a really good time with this one as well.
Which is kind of the opposite of Strange New Worlds, where it was like literally every episode felt like almost a different season or series.
Which I get how that's jarring, but I kind of liked that. So it's like when
I'm just saying it jarring or not. I'm just saying that the pacing, it's sort of the opposite of that, because it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of echoes of the last episode.
Yeah, but what did you think of I have no bones yet I must flee?
I like the stuff with Ransom and Mariner because it's like really good, basically therapy for her. It's like she's sort of learning more about herself, and Jack is actually like, oh, he's actually a good officer. He's not just like a meathead, which is great. The other stuff is like, it's just kind of like it feels like a very kind of standard. I don't want to say it's standard Star Trek thing, but it's like they almost made a joke about it, like, oh, this happens all the time or whatever. It's like to the point where it's like, yeah, why are we doing this in this show? I did like that the humans had the clothes that Dr. Pulaski, or the episode of Dr. Pulaski was in, where the aged children or whatever they were, the genetically altered, had the same jumpsuits.
The episode that forgot the eugenics wars was a thing, and that genetic augmentation's illegal. But
yeah. So no, I mean it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't bad. It just was sort of it was.
no, it was good.
I think we said before, it's like if I was going to show 2 episodes, I don't know if that would make that the second episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's hard for it to live up to the last one. However, I agree with you that the Mariner and Ransom stuff's really great, and that's something.
And we get to see the prototype Romulan ship that was Probert had drawn.
Yeah.
Back before, I think it's when TNG started or when they were. I don't know exactly when, but there's a Romulan ship that's very vertical as opposed to horizontal.
Yeah, we first see the Demoted in that. It was the season 1.
Oh, Neutral Zone
finale was
yeah.
Or which one was last? Conspiracy or Neutral Zone? I think Neutral Zone.
No, it was Neutral
last.
Zone.
Yeah. So it was probably like designed around that. Which that wasn't the original plan. Was not to bring in the Romulans at the end of season 1. That was something they decided. Like I think after the show had started airing, at least after they started shooting. Because that was kind of a last minute, like, oh my god, I don't think our Ferengi are gonna be the new Klingons. We just need to bring back the Romulans. Let's bring back the Romulans, and then we'll figure out like a new big bad in season 2 with maybe these conspiracy bugs. It ended up like morphing into like the Borg is like their new big bad. But yeah, they were like, in the meantime, let's just get some Romulans up in here. So they did. But yeah, the Romulans in this episode don't fare very well. As we see the opening, but yeah, it was kind of a fun connection. Like we end that episode with seeing like some Klingon lower deckers get called up to the bridge for like some emergency and then die. Here we do the same thing with like some Romulan lower deckers. I just love, we're like the lowest ranking officers on a Romulan ship. What do they taught? What do they have to do? And they're like, they're cleaning up Reman torture. They're literally throwing like Reman body parts into a body bag and talking about how like, I'm gonna betray Sub Commander Zurek, and like, no, I'm gonna betray Sub Commander Zurek. So it's like, yeah, that is Romulan lower decks.
Yeah, but this also plays into that a little too over the top, too jokey. That lower decks seems to avoid most of the time. I don't know, because it's like, no, I'm going to like if it's supposed to be canonical, it's just really weird. I mean, I don't know. I just found that it's those little pieces of the episodes where I'm like, okay, the holodeck thing, the just I don't know, little bits and pieces. I'm like, it felt like it was slipping a little bit into goofy, like cartoon tropes.
Yeah, I guess Romulans that are plotting to kill superior officers probably shouldn't advertise that to one another.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think of the episode that Deanna Troi, not
Face of the Enemy, where Troi becomes a Romulan. Yeah.
And I think that's a really probably a good, indication of how being on that ship is. It's like there's a lot of suspicion. So I mean, it's just taking that and ratcheting it up, but it's like they don't need to do that. They've proven that they don't have to make it insane. Funny, yes, but not like dumb.
But the similar attack, it's almost like the exact same animation. The thing just kind of shows up in front of the ship, and somehow is able to detect them when they were cloaked, because it knew where they were going to uncloak. And they were surprised, like, how did they even know we would be over here? So
maybe it's part of V'ger.
the beam that it uses, like it shuts down like all your systems, so you like you lose your weapons, you lose your defenses, and you just get blown up.
Or it's related to the whale probe, which did the same thing.
Yeah, it could neutralize
in the intro.
people. The whale, yeah, maybe there is a whale probe connection. Could be.
Whale bad
that
guys.
Technology is out there.
They're destroying like all the people who try. Well, no, it would only go after humans then at that point. Never mind.
But that's all we get of like the mysterious threat. So we'll just have to wait until we know more. But do you have any theories on that? I think like the only thing I can figure out is maybe Section 31 Boimler, or maybe Badgie, but I don't think he'd be detectable as a life form.
Did they detect life forms?
Yeah, these Romulans say that there's one life form on board.
Oh, okay.
So someone's in there. Someone's in that ship.
Yeah. No, I don't. I'll have to cogitate on that, but it's just like there's too many little pieces right now that could be. Mike and crew is really good about rearranging things in unexpected ways. Like, oh yeah, these are all the pieces that I thought about, but how they came together is like bizarre, whatever, and perfect. So
They also changed the trailers to hide things from us, so we can't even.
yes, we mention that already?
No, but like all the trailers, like they removed rank pips from the characters and a lot of shots. Like go back and watch the trailers now, and like there's episodes we haven't seen yet where they're still walking around as ensigns, and it's just
They get demoted. No.
well, there's also there's scenes that we've seen within these episodes where they have the rank pips that in the trailer they don't. So
Yeah.
there is some manipulation in
just
the
kidding.
trailer, which I'm all for. I am fine with storytellers lie to me so that your stories surprise me. I am
Yes.
A-okay with that. Like
Ms. Powell family in the chat had a good point. Like peanut hamper is a life form, right? Because well, not a biological life form.
yeah, like I don't think Data would be detectable as a life form, and neither would Peanut Hamper. They would just show up as machines on
Probably,
scans. But I think Peanut Hamper should have the legal rights of a life form. But I think she's also like a criminal who needs rehabilitation.
And then she can be thrown in jail. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, it's the Federation, so she'd be in rehabilitation, and then she'd become a good functional member of society.
She's a spoiled
Ideally.
kid, like who's like is just annoyed. Like I don't know. You feel like it's one of those kids that you see behaving badly on TikTok or something. Or it's like my dad said I could do this. I'm like, yeah, get out of here.
Well, she joined Starfleet to piss off her dad.
Yeah. Yeah,
but-
we get the bizarre workout scene.
Yeah, we get some interesting wardrobe choices. To be fair, like these were ridiculous
Yeah.
wardrobe choices in TNG, so it's even more ridiculous now. But very much
They
in
made
spirit.
men wear it, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it
this
was kind of insane that you asked those two women to wear that for no particular reason. Just like I think
For
they were
people
just
who don't
trying
know,
to...
it's the episode where Troy and Dr. Crusher are working out, and they have these very like tight body type suit things of I don't know. They're bending and working out on the ground or like doing yoga type stuff.
Yeah, they're stretching, but it's
but it's very suggestive stretching.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's uncomfortable.
Mariner overhears this plot or this plan or whatever. So get like another one of those kind of lower decks kind of misunderstanding type plots, which they've done before a few times. So, but yeah, Mariner basically she's under the impression that Ransom is going to humiliate her and demote her, but he's actually telling Shax like, oh, like I have a lot of faith in her. I'm not going to let her quit. I'm not going to let her get herself demoted. It is more like Shax being buddy with his crew though. Like, it turns out he's doing the right thing for Mariner, and here he seems to be like a good friend to Shax. He's like, "Oh, what has you so tense, bud?" And he's like listening to Shax talk about like his relationship issues with Dr. Tiana. So, but how do you feel about them like reusing that kind of? Oh, it's just like two characters with like a misunderstanding type thing.
I don't have as much a problem with and then they did one of those like I don't know what you're up to, but I like it, where they changed their tune or whatever, like because that happened like 900 times in season 2 or 3. I think it was 2, but it was just like, oh, if I never see that again, I'll be happy. But this doesn't really bug me as much because I feel like misunderstandings happen a lot in Star Trek too. Not exactly like that, but
well, it kind of ties into like their story arcs or their character arcs, because by the end of it, the Mariner and Ransom relationship is in a better place.
Yeah,
and
I think
it makes more sense than like Magato Gamato when they're like, oh, what if like Mariner is like an evil spy from Black Ops who's gonna murder us in our sleep? And
I think if Ransom's comment was a little less like, if I overheard that, I would think that he was like plotting something against her too. Like if it was something a little bit more innocuous that she misinterpreted, I think that would be more interesting. It's like, how did you get that from this? Like, yes, I said that because of XYZ. Like, oh.
Yeah, like whenever you hear someone say something like, "Oh well, they're not going to be my problem much longer," like it does sound a bit sinister.
How do you interpret that otherwise?
Did you think it was sad when they like leave their hallway?
A little bit.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But they
I'm like,
they make a
oh,
deal
he
about
wants
it when
because
they
it's
power
it's a
down.
cool space and it was new. We didn't really ever see this before.
You
It was
know,
very weird when we first saw it. I'm like, they're in a hallway? Like they
yeah,
have
it
a
was
giant
weird.
ship,
I didn't like it at first,
but
but it grew on me.
and I think I think part of it is also just it's not like, oh, we don't have the space. It's that it's a kind of a camaraderie and just getting people to grow together as a crew as opposed to just instantly putting everybody in their own room.
Yeah, you got to like go through boot camp, and you get like the
Basically, yeah.
quitters to quit, and then the people that are
Yeah.
dedicated, and there you go. But yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be kind of sad. Like I thought the hallway was weird at first. At some point, it must have grown on me. But I like that they are moving on up in the world.
Yeah.
I think the joke is funny. You know, if you watch this a second time, when Rutherford is like, "Oh, I'll just go get myself promoted today," and you know, Boimler being like, "Wow, I wish I had that confidence." But you know, he knows, he's like, "Man, I've turned down so many promotions. I can get one today. Like, no big deal." So. I like that. And
Yeah.
like he never like humble bragged. Like he's never telling his friends like, "Hey, I got offered a promotion, but I turned it down." But just so you know, like
Right.
how many times has this happened? But it does acknowledge like, oh yeah, he has like saved. I mean, they've all saved the ship multiple times, but Rutherford
But
really has
he's
like saved the
really
day a lot
yeah.
with like some. He's almost
With
like how
actual
Wesley Crusher would like always save the day, and I'm like, why is this 14-year-old like the smartest dude on the ship? You know, but.
But also with him, it's like it's something that's verifiable and like as opposed to like, I did an action that led to this that saved the ship. It's that, this is like he literally took this panel off and did this thing. So there's a kind of one-to-one action.
Oh, I also like that when they're talking about like all the good times that they had living in this hallway.
Yeah.
They
Things that we
mentioned
didn't see.
they mentioned the cosmic ray body swap that we never saw, but like I don't know, like if this was any other Star Trek show, I'd be like, is that going to be a novel someday? Because they don't do Star Trek Lower Decks novels. They do comic books, but
There's somewhere in Voyager, and I can't remember exactly what it was, where it's like, wait, what? Huh? I was like, oh, okay, I don't remember that happening. I think is when Janeway was traveling through time back through the ship or something like that, or the ship was fragmented into pieces.
oh, yeah, it was Chakotay who was the time. It was called like Splinter or
Oh,
Fracture or something like that.
oh yeah, because he was like, oh, or about that time that this and this happened, and she's like, wow, this sounds like it's gonna be a horrible trip.
um,
Maybe it was the telepathic picture plant. That might have been, but that kind of happened. Anyway,
There
but
was actually an
that's fun.
idea to do there was an idea for a body swap episode on Voyager. I think Ethan H. Koch, who sold 2 episodes to DS9, I think pitched a story to Voyager where he was going to have like everyone's like swapped in like different people's bodies.
Maybe they'll use this. This is like a little seed for something later where they'll have to know something about each other. And they're like, oh, I remember when I was part of you, or when we swapped bodies. I remember this or whatever. I don't know. It's like we learned a lot. I guess they're not swapping their memories, though. Never mind. It could be a fun flashback, though.
Yeah. Or I'd like to see it in like a comic book or something.
That too, yeah.
I think you could do a Lower Decks novel. Probably. It's weird that like every Star Trek show has like novel tie-ins except for Lower Decks.
Does Prodigy?
Yeah,
Oh, they did. Yeah.
they made like kid
Yeah.
like young reader books.
You could do. I mean, they had those in the TNG time. They had like parodies of Star Trek. It was pretty funny. Well, it was funny for me at the time. I'm sure, like, if I read it now, I'd be like, "Wow, this humor is kind of dumb." But I think there is a way that you could actually put this into a book.
Well, let's talk about like the mission to the menagerie, or the menage, as Mariner enjoys calling it. But yeah, she's basically gonna try to like be like the shittiest officer possible. So like she shows
Show
up.
up in her 70s workout clothes.
Yeah, she shows up for work in her workout gear. Just trying to piss off Ransom. And what do you think of like this new character, Ensign Gary?
I feel like he might be one of those the background characters that can comment on things. Like maybe we'll see him again. I don't know. Maybe we won't ever see him again either. But
I thought
kind of
he was
like
kind of funny.
Lundy in a way. It's like we see him occasionally.
I just like him being, he's kind of like in over his head. He's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I thought this was going to be a normal day. I don't know why this Mariner lady is acting so weird or so strange. I'm
Are you two
completely like,
breaking up?
yeah, like I'm having a hard time decoding the dynamic here. Like all that stuff I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I was saying, like I
And we've
like
all
that.
been in that situation too, where it's like, what is going on, and why am I even here? Yeah.
I like I was saying earlier, like I like that there's like there's people um that they outrank now, like Gary, like Livik.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess we haven't gotten to Livik yet, but
Well, he wouldn't at the time. They didn't either. He didn't until the very end. And the flying into the menagerie, just like cargo thing, just slamming the shuttle in. It's like that was a great landing. She's like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, just Mariner just being like, oh, is that nice and smooth enough for you, Commander Ransom? And just
Yeah, look
Ransom
at the
having to,
screenshot too, where it's like she's just completely nonplussed. As you can see, Ransom is not happy.
he's trying to hold it in. He's just like,
Yeah,
yep, Ensign, you're doing great. That was awesome. Just like, I'm not gonna let you get under my skin, which like that's hard because like she's really good at getting under his skin. But they have a
yeah,
cool relationship.
yeah.
I've been saying for a long time I'd like to see it go into romance. I think that'd be interesting, but I don't know if that'll happen
They
or not.
kind of
But
had that little glimpse of that in the episode and season one,
yeah,
where she's like, so ethical.
the third episode of the show established
Yeah,
that they're attracted to each other, but they're always kind of like either Ransom feels like he's stuck with Mariner, or Mariner feels like she's stuck with Ransom.
yeah.
It's always kind of like a back and forth with the two of them. But yeah, like we go here, and it is like I was saying, like it's so similar to the last episode. It's like, oh, we go to like this kind of like cool, unique location that's going to be full of Easter eggs for all
And
the
has
seasoned
a
Star Trek audience members, and yes, it's ran by like this really weird, neurotic guy who's just like obsessed with keeping it all
mhm.
perfect.
Yeah,
So,
very similar in that respect. We're gonna do the Easter eggs later. Never mind, or the Gorn eggs.
yeah, we'll save that stuff
Sorry. Yeah.
for the end. But um, there a lot of the creatures seem to be like new creations, so they
Yeah.
were kind of like adding a lot. But there
I
is
was
some
kind of hoping that
familiar
there would have been some
faces.
of the. There's been a couple times in the animated series where they've had weird, like collections of animals that are just sort of there and they never talk about them. So
Yeah,
like it'd be cool to bring like one or two of those back into this, but they didn't.
Eye of
Maybe.
the Beholder
Yeah.
has some interesting ones, and then how
But
sharper than a serpent's tooth.
the Eye of the Beholder, Spock is like, I find myself strangely attracted to them. I'm like, ugh.
What's that electrical cat from How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth?
That is a Capellan power cat.
Yeah, they should have had a Capellan power cat in this
That would be fun.
menage. I would have liked that, but instead we get
And then just
Moopsy.
like,
They do kind of tease, they show like Mariner is pissed with Ransom and she's staring at the Moopsy, and we don't know who lets it out at first. So they do kind of set up like to the audience, like, I don't know.
for a second,
was
I thought it was
Mariner?
her and then she was just like, I didn't know he was in the evil, blah 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 blah. And like,
But
but yeah, no,
they play fair though with the upside down umbrella in the human cage.
yeah.
There's two very quick shots of that.
Oh, it is upside down, isn't it?
But
Already.
yeah, they show it to us
That's funny.
early in the episode. But yeah, you like, it's quick. It's not on screen very long. So unless
Wow.
you know to look for it,
Good
you're probably
eyes.
not going to notice it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was the humans all along, and then it is funny, like when the Moopsy is out, just Narge, just like his reaction of just like, oh my god, the Moopsy is out. It's the most deadly thing here possible. But I kind of wish that the trailer hadn't shown this, because like we all knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But like,
That
okay, it's
would've
gonna
been
go
good.
in there. It's gonna eat the swamp gobblers. It's gonna drink their bones. But
But it would have been more surprising if we actually saw that for the first
Yeah.
time.
It's still funny though, just like their reaction, like, oh my god, that looks like one of the worst ways to die. I want to put as much distance between me and that thing as possible.
Definitely.
But I guess like the meat of the episode for me was like, yeah, the character stuff between Ransom and Mariner, just like his accusations to her about like, this is all your fault, you're doing this, and then her accusations to him of like, I overheard you working out with Shax, and I know that you're actually trying to humiliate me. And they they come to an understanding. And what I love there is that like Ransom believes her when she's like, "No, I didn't let the Moopsie out," and he's, it's the opposite of what happened at the end of season 3 when everyone's like, "Mariner, you're
that's true. It's
terrible.
like,
Get the hell off the ship."
Little bit of a kind of a, what am I trying to say? Redemption for her in that sense.
Yeah.
Well, she didn't have anything to redeem herself from, honestly. But
right. That is cool. Like season 3, the end of season 3, it shows like how much Mariner has grown to love and respect the crew of the Cerritos and care about other people, and like even her mom, who she has this complex relationship with. And so I'm happy to see like that sticks, and then other people are gonna kind of reciprocate and show that same kind of concern and respect back to Mariner. And actually have a commanding officer that believes you when you say like, "No, I didn't do that thing."
Yeah.
But yeah, the big death I was talking about earlier comes when the Moopsie, which to me is like, it feels like such a Pokemon. Like that's like every Pokemon, and like it like says like their name. Like the only thing Pikachu can say is like Pikachu. Like,
it also
like
sort of looks like the adipose from Doctor Who.
Yes, which were also
fat creature.
Cute.
Yes.
And I guess kind of evil.
Well, if they didn't completely like take all of the person and like convert them over, it's like that would have been fine, and people then would be thin, and like it's just that's okay. It's weird, but not deadly.
But how did you feel about Narge being devoured, having his bones, his plant bones? He says he's ossified.
I think that was more weird than I think him being eaten, honestly. But I don't know. It's like, it's probably, you don't see this that often in Star Trek. But at the same time, it seems to fit this story. It's like there has to be some sort of level of, well, this is that bad. I honestly thought they were going to kill off the ensign, or the what's his name?
Ensign Gary.
Gary, yeah. It's like, oh, he's gone, and then it's like that might have been why they chose the other. They chose the curator, just because it's not expected.
This is only the second time in Lower Decks where like someone's death has been part of the joke. I think the first time was in season 2 in Magado Gamato.
Yeah.
When they have the expert, the Gamato expert, who is actually an idiot, the Tellarite guy, when he died.
Oh, right.
But that was kind of like of his own doings.
Yeah.
Like here, I guess like Banana and Pajamas guy Nard, like he dies as a result of those humans being assholes.
I mean, they kind of it also reinforces that message of like, humans are the most dangerous game.
But they add some more stakes and danger when the Moopsie somehow is like stepping on all the right controls to.
They're like, we locked him away. We're safe. It's like, oh no, you locked him into the control room.
Yeah, it is a little bit of like worst case scenario. Like, how's it keep getting worse and worse? It's kind of like,
oh,
we just
not
happened
doing it on purpose,
right?
But it's just happening to stand on the right things to start to decelerate the orbital menagerie.
It's kind of like when the macro virus turned on the holograms. It's like,
yes, exactly.
I think it just like was bumping around and like hit the computer and accidentally like set the holograms safety protocols to random. But it was another one of those similarities that I couldn't help but notice watching these two things back to back and then having to break both of them down the same day like this. Just
as Joel Moopsie butt dialed death like Murph.
Yes, and the macro virus. So there's a lot of deadly butt dials.
That's the name of the episode, Deadly Butt Dials.
That'd be a good, that can be a Lower Decks episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of like the tooth solution?
That I mean, I get it, but it's just like, I don't want to watch this. I had some dental surgery, not dental surgery, like dental stuff earlier this year, and it's like I don't even want to brush my teeth sometimes because I don't want to think about my mouth, which is I need to do that. But
it can be a little gross. Tooth stuff can be a little,
and this is
make your skin crawl.
I mentioned this to somebody maybe on the show earlier in the season that sometimes Lower Decks is sort of like that gross friend you have a friend that you have that like does this one thing and you're like, ugh, and you just have to kind of ignore them. Like you're still their friend, but it's just like, oh gosh, I wish you wouldn't do that. And that's kind of this. Like they have like a gross part of something, and you're like, oh, that's really not
Like,
necessary.
you're
But
really
all right,
cool, but like
yeah,
you need to like cover your mouth when you sneeze or like something like
yeah,
that.
like something like that's a good. But yeah, so it's like it's interesting but gross.
It made me think of like for some reason when I was in high school, my mom bought this like massive hog at the state fair just because like she just thought it was a cute animal, I guess. But like she would always like escape from her pen.
Oh, it
So
was
I would
alive. I'm thinking, imagining like just a big ham hock kind of thing.
no like
oh,
she kept she kept her as like a pet. Like we had her for a few years.
wow.
But I don't know why she wanted to do that either. It's so weird. Like I wish I could like ask my mom like what the hell were you thinking? Anyways, like she would escape a lot, and so like I would take like some Oreos. I would leave like a trail of Oreos, and she would just eat the Oreos and go back into her pen. So I had flashbacks to being teenage fathery trying to lure my hog Bridget back into her pen.
If this was on the Cerritos and they had like replicator technology, they probably could just replicate like bone type stuff and do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean like. Just go to a food replicator. Just hey, give me a bone-in ribeye, and just get like a whole bunch of those and leave a trail or something. Like bones are like if people are if you're a vegetarian or vegan, and you don't want to hear like eating meat like described, then like skip forward like 20 seconds.
Marrow.
You don't want to hear this, but like yeah, like cooking meat on the bone is delicious. Like I love to cook like pork chops on the bone or like steak on a bone or like I love like hot wings. But like I'm like you can't get boneless wings because like you're not getting like all that flavor that you get out of the bone. You get the bone in
bone
wings.
broth. I mean, you make
There's
we
a
always
lot
save
of
our stuff from Thanksgiving and make soup and stuff. Yeah. In fact, I was watching Dimension 20, their new play or RPG of Mentopolis, I think this was called. And this is this guy who just will say random facts that sound vaguely threatening at the same time. It's like, did you know that marrow blood is kept inside the marrow because it keeps it away from the most radiation or something like that? And you're like, why are you telling me this? Like, are you going to break my bones or radiate me or what? But it was like, that's kind of interesting. It's like, yes, Hank, that's right. So I'm curious, like like I wonder why the bone marrow why that actually tastes good. Like it doesn't seem like there should be a reason for that to exist.
Maybe it's because it's like it's nutritious, so like we evolved to like, oh, that's like the healthiest part, so that's the part I want to eat.
Yeah, that could be.
That's why we like sweet stuff. It was like to get us to like eat more fruit, and now it's like, no, it's gonna give you diabetes now. Stop. But yeah, evolution is weird. But in the 24th century, humans can still they still haven't evolved past their ability to be bad, to be evil, to be naughty,
to mess up.
These schemers, these humans,
and build really ugly outfits.
Yeah, I haven't gotten past that either. Yeah, it turns out as Ransom says to Ensign Gary, humans really are the most dangerous game after all. Or like the way he says it is something like, oh, yeah. Can't talk, but before we talk about like the ending of the episode, then let's talk about like the Cerritos stuff with like Boimler and Rutherford and they're less deadly, but still very I don't know, they're not having a good time. Neither one of them. They're both dealing with their own obstacles.
I think we had this conversation, like created a headcanon. It was like, why does he know Mirror Archer? How would he do that? So the only thing I can think of is that like by then it's like declassified. And one of the reasons that you don't get like a Mirror Universe TNG is that they kind of are more aware of it. Because on Deep Space Nine, when it happened, they were also aware of it, as opposed to like nobody knowing about it. So I'm just wondering if it's like, okay, this is sort of more general knowledge. And so this is declassified from something from Control or something, something that they had access to.
Dr. Bashir knew about the Mirror Universe when in the first crossover in DS9, which I think is the episode is called Crossover, because he was like, oh yeah, Kirk had a mission, and like Kira hadn't heard about that because she didn't grow up in the Federation. So why would she? But yeah, like it was like well known enough that like Bashir had heard about it, but like why would anyone know what Archer was wearing on the NX-01, or when he got to the 1701, like before he was assassinated by Travis Mayweather and Hoshi Sato, and they took over the Terran Empire. Like,
Because if
why?
you had access to the like the more modern day Terran stuff, like it could have come from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
possible.
that's what I
Like,
was thinking. Is that
something data bank or something that they.
because they travel back and forth pretty willy-nilly on DS9. It's like it seems pretty easy to go back and forth between the mirror universe and
change a few things on the transporter and
yeah.
So
I think someone was just like probably a Ferengi was like, hey, people like to buy these toys of famous Starfleet heroes. Like,
here's
there's
an alternate version.
Yeah, you haven't seen like all the variants from the mirror universe. We have variants of all these toys now.
As real quick Voyager sidetrack is the episode where the time goes really, really fast on the planet, but not like basically civilizations grow very quickly because time passes more quickly on the surface.
Yeah. Wink of an eye.
Wink of an eye. Thank you. Is it wink of a blink? No, it is wink.
Blink of an eye is the TOS
yes.
one.
Yeah. But the 1930s era, roughly, like kind of, and he's talking about the skyship figures that he had, which is like, I'm assuming kind of like action figures. It's like, I even had like the duplicates, which I'm like, is that a mirror universe type of thing? Or like, like, I just thought that was funny. It's like,
or was it like another brand, like knockoff or something?
Yeah. It's like, oh, they have Playmates as well. But anyway, so yes, so that's maybe it's like that, a Ferengi kind of thing where it's just like,
I'm more curious about like where, like I want to ask Mike McMahan
where this room is.
Yeah, I want to hold up the Eagle Moss model of the Cerritos and like hand it to Mike McMahan and ask him like, please point to where Boimler's quarters are. I guess it's somewhere on the saucer, but like
here,
how is he like staring out a window at like that
directly
at
cell
at that angle?
You have to be down here.
Yeah,
is there like a room on the
like their hallway was down there. Their hallway was in like the secondary hole when they were living in the hallway. So maybe they're still so maybe he still has quarters down there. But I just assumed he'd be up in the saucer somewhere.
Well, to get that view, you have to be like up here somewhere. Oops, there.
Oh, so his first room is in a pylon.
Like, he's looking at this part of it, right? The front pylon.
Yeah.
The Bassard collector. He even says it. Like there's no room that actually looks over that.
Yeah. So not quite sure how that works.
I will. That's a question we need to ask him. Show us on the model where his room is.
Maybe as a good explanation. I don't know. But yeah, things aren't going much better for Rutherford. He's like, I just gotta do like the slightest little improvement on the ship, and that'll get me my promotion. And it's like everything he tries, like the dude Ensign Livik has already done it just a little bit better. And just think of what this must mean about Starfleet ships. Like if you have like every Starfleet ship has like a bunch of engineers running around being like, how can I make things just like 0.5% more efficient? It's like, no wonder like Starfleet gets so much shit done. Like they're on top of it.
100%. Yeah.
Even when Rutherford's or Livik's their type of modifications actually just make life worse for Boimler, where they're getting like the Bassard collector even brighter. And he's got to bust out the Medusan goggles.
Yeah. Our chief engineer in our improv thing was basically doing the same things, like 0.00091 or something like that was the increasing the efficiency of the engines. It's just like that was her drive for that season, was to get that tiny little bit. Which was like when this came out and they started doing that, I'm like, oh, okay, we're on the right track. Yeah. I couldn't figure out, like they mentioned Peter Pan, but they're also mentioning Robin Hood. So I'm trying to figure out what was this program.
Yeah, Robin Hood gets mentioned more than Peter Pan. So I think that Boimler must have saw like Dr. Tiana in the Robin Hood outfit and maybe thought like it could have been Peter Pan. But like in the holodeck, which sounds pretty funny, you hear like Robin Hood's voice. You hear like Dr. Tiana say like something like, like, come here, bitch, I'm Robin Hood now. And then you hear him be like, oh no, a cat has stolen my hot and my arrows. And And just poor Shax being like, "Can we just use the program as intended, just one time?"
No.
And so you got that weird crime play. That's what they call it in the holodeck. Crime play. We learned that in Paradoxus, Crisis Point 2, Paradoxus last season. But that's going on one side of Boimler, and then on the other side he has Captain Freeman, who loves to scat in front of an audience and living out her fantasy of becoming
President of
Federation
Starfleet.
president.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is doing some type of scat performance to, I guess, like the whole Federation.
It's sort of like, when they have the inaugural poem or something when the president is, it's that, but just scatting.
So I liked Boimler's solution of like, I'm just gonna live in the Jeffries tubes at this point.
It kind of reminds me like every kid would love to do that. That's where they'd want to be. It's like camping.
I would love to live in a Jeffries tube on a Starfleet ship.
It seems like it'd be quiet.
What do you think of like that exchange between Rutherford and Tindy? When I guess Rutherford's he's finally gonna give up on his endeavors to get a promotion, and then like Tindy just like ordering him like, I'm gonna order you that we're gonna still be friends.
That feels very Tindy. I don't know, just especially with Rutherford, because I feel like she has more. There's more, I don't know, give and take between the two of them than with like she wouldn't do that to Mariner, most likely. With other people she'd be more, rah trying to be super positive. This is where she's like, okay, I know my friend and he needs this kick in the butt, basically. It's kind of what it felt like.
I am really hoping that they build up a romance between the two of them and like have them like actually get in a relationship this season, because I just as I even more so than I feel about like Mariner and Ransom. Like I don't even know if I want Mariner and Ransom to be in a relationship, and then you have to deal with like the whole like workplace power structure, which I know they've done in Star Trek before, but might be something that I don't know people are more concerned with today than in previous decades in real life. But yeah. I don't. Do you want to see them just stay friends, or do you think it'd be better if they actually did like get in a romantic relationship?
I think it would be interesting to see them try. Doesn't mean it has to work out.
Yeah,
but then that causes its own interesting dilemmas. Like, how do you remain friends? Like, I feel like if they do this and they break up, that's going to be one of the things that they'll learn. It's like, oh, we can still be friends. Like, you can break up with somebody and not have to hate them. They could just find out that they're not compatible for long periods of time together. But they seem to have spent a lot of time together. So I don't know. I feel like they're the couple that you have friends and you're like, these two clearly like each other. They're perfect for each other, but they don't do anything. And then one day like, oh, we've been married for 5 years now. So I don't know. I feel like, yeah, they're the people who are having a relationship, but just don't say anything. So I feel like that could be them. If Mariner's having a relationship, everyone in the ship is going to know, no matter if they want to or not.
But I loved the reveal of Rutherford just being like, yeah, I've turned down so many promotions. Like, the time that I saved the Rubidoux or from the jellyfish thing, or, the time that I saved the Cerritos from the Packleds or whatever. And just him being like, but I guess, I didn't earn anything today, so I'm not going to get promoted. And then Tindy just being like, hey, Billups, can Rutherford have a promotion for the time he stripped down the ship and saved everyone? And Billups just being like, oh, sorry, Levick, I guess it's not your day today, so...
Well, you still can promote 2 people. That's what's sort of weird, but you're like, okay.
No, he has like a quota. He can only have like so many
one.
lieutenants or something.
Do
you think we'll see more Levick?
Coming? Yeah, I was just going to ask that. It was like, do you think he's going to come back? He could be an interesting, like what was it in The Simpsons? The other guy who had like Grimy or whatever is like Grimes. What's his name in the nuclear power plant? Like, always thought that Homer was always getting like something that he tried to do. I can't remember his name, but it was Grimes or something like that. But it's kind of that sort of thing.
I would like to see Gary and Livik both like come
Ah,
back and like talk about like, man, like I really can't stand Tindy or Rutherford, and like, yeah, like, I hate their friend Mariner too. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll have like some insubordinate ensigns that don't like our junior grade lieutenants.
that would be interesting.
But yes, it's possible. I don't know. We'll have to just see if who
I wonder
who
if
becomes recurring and who is like a one shot only type character.
it'd be interesting to see Tendi like take her promotion a little bit too seriously, where she just like tries to then kind of like make everybody fall in line and like you're just a junior grade lieutenant, like dial it back.
Yeah, I like Jill 47's comment in the live chat where she says Tindy's first order ever was to be friends. And like, yeah, that is kind of
How's
a
how Tendi that is.
yeah. Um, but back in the menage, everything ends fairly peacefully. I guess we had a couple
Who's
of
still
swamp.
running it? Like the guy got eaten.
He
The
must have
humans are
some
behind.
staff. He's got like
Like yeah, because
someone
I'm like
there.
it's still running. People are coming in and looking at him like who
Yeah,
what?
we got like the and Antians or Antidians or whatever, like
Antedians.
the fish dudes and the
Yep.
belly button people.
Which are actually in the current new very short trek. There's an Antedian,
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
yeah. When they're talking about frying fish or
Yeah.
something along those lines. The belly button people from season 3 though, like they got one of the
Oh
little
yeah.
belly button kids is like tapping it. Like it does seem like it'd be pretty obnoxious to be like in captivity like this. So kind of just desserts for the two
Especially
humans that got
because they're
someone
like
killed.
clearly sentient by like they look just like him except they're not different skin color. You know, it's just like clearly they're not animals or monkeys even.
Yeah, must feel kind of dehumanizing. The
Personizing. I don't know
irony
what the
of
word would be.
the irony of being like, oh, I'm gonna be put on display as like the spectacle as being a human. Like, come look at the human, and just that in and of itself is dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. But I thought that was I don't know, like a good I assume eventually they'll have to like, go to some type of legal process. They'll be put on trial or something. I don't know who has like jurisdiction over the menagerie, but yeah, like okay, like the next ship that comes through will deal with that. I'm fine with that. Um,
This part was creepy. I don't know why, but it's just like
Ransom in sick bay with the new teeth. Yeah, it's like
my
what we were
teeth are
talking about,
just
like
a
teeth
little too
teeth
big.
stuffs
Yeah.
is freaky.
I don't like people might know it's like I've had a heart transplant and I'd rather have a heart stuff than teeth stuff, which people cannot fathom. But I'm like, no, it's heart stuff. You're also asleep.
Well, isn't that like a recurring nightmare? Like some people have like their teeth are like breaking or like
Yeah.
or like I don't know. I never really like have like that.
I don't
I've
think
never
I've
had
ever
trouble
had
like
that
going to the
specifically.
dentist or anything. But I've also like I had braces as a kid, but beyond that, I've
Oh,
never had like any serious like dental work. So it doesn't like bother. But like lately, like sometimes like I don't know, teeth stuff lately can kind of freak me out a little bit.
I apparently had too many teeth. I actually did end up having a surgery where I was out that they worked on my mouth. That's because I was really young and my heart issue. They just wanted it controlled. So that was interesting.
The
So I
funny
didn't actually
thing.
have to have my wisdom teeth out because they kind of got everything at the same time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my wisdom teeth removed, I guess, when I was like 19 or 20. But beyond that, not like much dental work. Uh, but the funny thing in like the scene in sickbay between Ransom and Mariner is that Ransom looks so ridiculous with the giant teeth in his mouth, but they play the whole scene very straight, where they have this
Yes.
this sincere heart to heart bonding moment where yeah, we're gonna be working closely together, but I'm gonna do everything I can to be like a good supportive boss to you, and Mariner just being like, yeah, I'm gonna do everything I can to be like a good supportive uh junior officer to you, and it's kind of the first time we've seen the two of them like this much like on board this like on the same page, like their goals are like really aligned, they're like sincerely like on the same side. It's not really happened before.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see them team up and like I mean they have, but it's just something where it's like they're the issues that they've had and their back and forth isn't the plot. It's just where they're literally working together and we don't need to know that there's no friction. There's not, like just something that they're doing together, if that makes sense. It would be kind of cool.
And then the very last scene we get is Boimler and Rutherford. They're going to be roommates. They got like their new quarters. They still have bunk beds, and now Boimler has someone who like knows how to dim the viewport.
Just think if he knew that, he could have had the room with the one bed and everything.
Yeah, he could have like the much nicer quarters, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're like, oh yeah, because we're sharing a room, we're gonna get better quarters. Like this.
That's not how that
this
works
is not
normally.
really better. It's
Yeah. There's also like, why is there just a giant space in the middle of the room? There's no furniture. There's nothing. Just
there's room for like 2 full-size beds in this. Like you don't even need like the little bunks built into
Jill
the
said,
wall.
like the room is big enough for Mariner and Tendi too.
Let's have everyone live. I mean, all all 4 Delta shifters are in the same room somewhere,
That's
right?
true.
Because they won the room lottery.
It's like they have their own little 10 forward there.
Yeah, we end on the note of like, oh yeah, Boimler's gonna miss the dent he made bumping his head in his bunk bed, but
He
he
named
just made like a
Denty.
new dent here, yeah. So I thought Denty was kind of denty, badgy, like I
Yeah.
don't know, like get some more creative names, y'all.
Don't name your dent. That's the other thing.
Another weird thing, my mom was a big animal person, so like we always had like a lot of like weird pets, and I grew up around like all kinds of like weird farm animals and everything. But at one point we had a pet dove. I don't know why, but we had like a dove that lived in a bird cage, and his name was Dovey Dove. Like sometimes my mom was, like not that creative with the names, but yeah, Dovey Dove. Like I don't know. The hog was named Bridget, but the dove was Dovey Dove.
Like having a dog named Spot or something like that. It's just like, wow, you really worked on that name. Yeah.
But that's I don't know. You got anything else on I have no bones yet I must flee before we go to the Gorneg section?
Yeah, so the Gornegs, there's some stuff in there, but this was a good bridge episode between things. I mean, it's just it would be nice if it had a little too much of the matchy from the last episode, but it was a good episode.
Yeah.
Just
yeah,
I did like the stuff
if they
with
weren't
Mariner
released the same day, then
I
all those complaints I made, I probably wouldn't have made.
Yeah, even if it was just a week later, that probably would have made. Yeah, if you watch them back to back, that's where you're like, oh,
Yeah, but I'm not too worried about it. Lower Decks has a pretty wide and you're right, not the same variety that we get in Strange New Worlds, but it definitely has a wide range.
I'm fine with that, honestly. It's like I like if you like something, you don't want it to be so radically different from episode to episode.
Yeah, a little bit of a narrow focused is I totally get that. Yeah, like and if Lower Decks is like your favorite Trek, which I know it is a lot of people's, then yeah, you definitely don't mind it having that like consistent Lower Decks flavor in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll just with all that being said, then I guess I'll go into the Gorneg section of the show. So again, these are the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections that I thought would be fun to point out. We'll do the Twovix ones first, and then we'll do the I have no bones yet I must flee. I always stumble when I say the name of that episode. I have to like pause and think about it. It's like
I keep trying to say I have no mouth, but I must flee, which is
I feel like it needs like another word in front of it. Like it needs to be like although or even though or because or like something like that. Like
it's a parody of a Harlan Ellison title, I think.
Yeah. I'll point it out in a minute. I wrote that down as one of the Gornegs to share. But with Twovix, we get our first season 4 opening credit sequence. They update it every year. This year they make their epic battle more epic by adding in a Breen ship from season 3 and also the Star Trek 4 well probe.
Yeah, I feel bad that I had to ask you what the Breen ship is. Normally I'm really good with ship recognition, and I was just
it's a weird design. It's one of the most bizarre designs and
watching it, it feels like it doesn't actually have any dimensions. It feels like they're just moving one solid picture, like shrinking it as opposed to it literally flying away.
Yeah, it was probably
it's just the way it looks.
It's a hard shape to fit into the Lower Decks animation style. But it actually is a pretty faithful. I think that's part is like because they were so faithful, it looks a little awkward. If they probably could have like changed it to fit a little better, but I appreciate the faithful adaptation.
Jill would like to know which one was the Breen ship.
That is this dude.
This weird shape.
Yeah, this it comes in for a quick second, chasing this bird of prey up here. So this ship right here chases this ship right here. The
And as
podcast
a
people won't get
kid,
to
well,
hear that, but for people
in the
watching,
80s, I didn't think about it, but now it's like it's a giant sushi roll. The whale probe.
oh yeah, it is. Did you eat
Which makes me
sushi in
want
the
that for
80s? Was
dinner.
it like
No, it was,
sushi
but I was
common?
like,
Like,
yeah, but I was like 18 or 16, or it was like I wasn't
oh,
eating sushi. I didn't live in
yeah.
California then, but yeah, that's when that was the yuppie thing. That would be whatever the trendy new food was, that and plates that had like four little things on it that were plated really cool, and that was your dinner.
Yeah, I don't think I
It was
ever
way too expensive.
I don't think I ever even like saw sushi anywhere until like very late 90s was when like it was actually like at restaurants that I guess served sushi. But yeah,
I
probably might
miss
have like just
sushi.
took a while to we don't have like a ton of like Asian food in Austin. Like I know that's like our big like blind spot in like the food scene. It's like we don't have like a ton of Asian food and we don't have like a lot of like Italian food. Like a lot of like East Coast people are like, where's the Italian food? But
I of course like I didn't never ate it growing up. Come to California, actually like I could have eaten sushi every day, like because we have like really good places around here, but
yeah.
and
I ate at a
after I had my
sushi
heart,
I ate a
okay,
sushi place that was like
oh, that's right,
3 blocks from where I thought it was just kind of
yeah.
but
Well, that was not every place is great,
yeah,
but
there are good
uh,
ones in the LA area, I'm sure.
yeah. And after my heart transplant, I can't have sushi because I can't have raw fish. So I
Oh
mean, I
yeah, you
can,
told me about that.
and it's not even the fish. It's like if the rice sits for too long, it collects bacteria, which is what they used to actually grow bacteria on, was little pieces of rice before there were pectin dishes. So I have to make my own basically, and it can't be raw fish. So I loved it. What was great about going out is that somebody else made it for you, and you didn't have to make it
Mm.
yourself. But sorry, sushi diversion.
Well, there's a ton of Voyager
Woo!
references. We get the score, the Jerry Goldsmith score that they love dropping in Prodigy, Picard, whatever show. We get the brilliant depiction of the Voyager ship. Looks
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. They recreate several sets from Voyager, all very familiar. We see engineering, we see Cargo Bay 2, we see the mess hall, we see the bridge. We see Neelix recreated with a mannequin. We see the sick
Oh,
bay,
it looks
transporter
very.
room.
Remember in the collector's episode, there was one of his outfits in the corner. I think it was that. It'd be interesting if they got that from the collector's ship.
Oh yeah, they had like his hat, I think,
Yeah,
or
it was in the
something.
background, but they had. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and check. That would be really interesting. It's like there's a little continuity between those two episodes.
Um,
Yeah,
I
the
didn't
bridge, the
realize
transporter
how
room.
yeah, I didn't realize how similar the Voyager transporter room looks to the Cerritos transporter room until like I saw someone beam from one to the other. They're not exactly identical,
Oh
but they're
yeah,
very similar. They're clearly not carbon copies, but just
right.
like the blue pattern on like the back wall and kind
Yeah,
of the flooring. But it makes sense, Voyager, an Intrepid class ship and a
not the right
California class
era.
ship would probably be built
Yeah,
around the same time. So, um,
Harry Cam.
but yeah, we also saw the shuttle bay and the astrometrics lab.
Oh yeah.
The Harry Kim mannequin with the mission worn uniform. When the curator grabs that back from Boimler, we get the I call them Kayshanisms, but I always like to point these out whenever we get like a new Temerian language type saying. And
Mm-hmm.
he says Unzak when he guided the Florkas to their roost. So whatever that means, but it was relevant to the
But getting
situation.
this Voyager back safely.
Yeah. We get the Neelix cheese mentioned. That's from the Voyager episode Learning Curve, where the cheese bacteria
Jay,
and
he's just sick bay.
yeah messed up the ship. Speaking of Neelix, though, the Twovix flower, the orchid that merged him with Tuvok, is seen in this episode. And we also see the neural gel packs up close inside of the panels, very faithfully reproduced from how they were depicted on Voyager. Basically, like a bag of like blue gel
with like what kind of looks like little roots or something. Like there's like this like neurons and
oh yeah, I guess that's the organic part like growing in there. Okay, that makes sense. The Tactacian macrovirus from Macrocosm. We have the threshold salamanders, and then the holograms, the clown from the Thal, Chaotica from Bride of Chaotica, and Michael
others.
Sullivan from, I guess, Fairhaven and Spirit Folk.
Yep.
And that's all I got on Twovix. But then with I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee, that title is taken from the... Well, I've never read it, but Warren Ellison famously penned
Harlan Ellison.
I'm sorry, Harlan Ellison. Who did I say?
Warren Ellison. I don't know who that is.
No, that's someone else. No, fuck that guy. We're talking about Harlan Ellison. That's the only thing I got to bleep for Trek Geeks. But
oh yeah,
Harlan Ellison. He wrote a short story called "I Have No Mouth, But I Must Scream." And this one's called "I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee." That's another thing. Is like, is it yet? But
not know
like that. I have to flip that one. But yeah, I want to read that. Speaking of like, it's kind of like the spooky time of year. I'll read like a good like a horror sci-fi short story
that inspired the Terminator, from what I understand.
Okay, so it's like the part of that legal settlement. They got Harlan Ellison's name in the end credits.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, you pointed out the Andy Probert concept for the Romulan warbird, the vertical design.
It's not exact, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was something like I never knew if I actually wanted it in canon, but now that I've seen it, I was like, oh yeah, that's I like that variety. It's clearly clearly Romulan, but it's something different. We haven't had a poor Reman on screen in Star Trek, I guess, since there were some in Enterprise actually. Enterprise season 4 had a few walking around on Romulus in the background.
Oh yeah.
That was the only time we saw them outside of Nemesis, and we haven't had them since. But we saw some Reman body parts chopped up and thrown in a body bag. I was kind of surprised to see Remans have.
That's a little gross.
Yeah, they have red blood, so it's like even grosser. Like, why wouldn't you use green blood? Like, I thought they'd be like the same as Romulans or Vulcans, but
I don't know. That's weird.
It is, but I mean, like they also have like white skin and yellow eyes, so they are weirdly colored. I guess it makes sense their blood could be a weird color too. The workout clothes though that looked ridiculous on Gates McFadden and Marina Sirtis.
Let me
even more
highlight
ridiculous
my
now.
boobs with this. It's like it's such a weird.
Yeah. But they also have Ransom ask Shax if he wants hot fudge sundaes after their workout. So that was a very Troy thing to say. She's a huge chocolate nut. The boxes that they carry around with when they're moving are just packed with a lot of familiar stuff. With Boimlers, you see like his plaque for the Boimler effect he got way back in Temporal Edicts in season 1, his Tom Paris plate, his Stargazer model that he had from the Starfleet recruitment day, the Klingon headpiece that he wears when he's playing B&B. With Tindy, we got the picture of her dog named Dog and her model of the Cerritos. I don't know, Aaron, if you could tell what any of that stuff is, but
I think it's just that was the thing that she always mixes stuff in it's the not Petri. What am I trying to say? Like a
beaker,
test tube,
like chemistry lab.
Isn't that what she made?
She made the dog in that
dog
thing.
man. Yeah, I think.
And then with Rutherford, all he has is the DS9 model. I guess like the animators didn't have time to like add stuff to his box.
We don't really know. I mean, what do we know with
He has this DS9 model. He has like a pad, and then he has this engineering tool.
He could have his tricorder, the purple tricorder. He could have a bunch of those.
Oh yeah, the T88 with the cool stripe. Has the cool purple stripe. But with Boimler stuff, we also see his Ad Astra Aspera poster from Strange New Worlds.
With her face covered up. And we don't see her face at all in any of these, which is interesting.
Oh, yeah, I wonder if there's like an intentional reason for that.
Yeah.
we have his Captain Freeman Day banner. He rolls it up and uses it as his pillow. He also has his fiddle or his violin. I don't know what he calls it, but that's in his case. And he has action figures of not just Mirror Universe Archer, but also Captain Spock in a monster maroon.
Yeah.
And I believe like Star Trek First Contact Data with the phaser rifle.
That's what my guess is. Yeah.
And this is really cool. I think you're probably excited about this also, Aaron, as a long-time Easter egg hunter. But
universe.
They have a name for it now. The Tucker tubes. They're a thing.
And this is, I guess, everybody loves Trip Tucker. It should have been the O'Brien tubes. If it's the, in real life, quote unquote real life, it's the most important device in the universe. It should be like the most important man in Starfleet. Should be
I don't
O'Brien.
think it's something that Trip Tucker invented. I think it's something that someone named after him.
No,
later.
I know. I'm just being silly. But this is sort of like,
because we don't see that in Enterprise or the original series or like Strange New Worlds or seasons 1 and 2 of Discovery. So it's
this prop has been around since
when did it first show up in Star Trek? Was it in any of the movies in the 80s before it was in TNG?
Yeah, I think it was in
was it in Wrath of Khan?
Yeah.
Genesis?
Genesis. Everybody, my day was very long and I'm getting very tired.
It's like Deep Space Nine. It feels like a 26-hour day.
Well, it's just everything that I did today just kind of caught up at once, I think. It's just like, oh, I need to eat and go to sleep. Well, it's only 7:30. Not quite sleepy.
But now I wonder if we're gonna see the Billups tubes pop up with the third tube that somehow doesn't trigger a Heisenberg collapse.
Most important machine in the universe. I'm trying to built in 1977 to serve as a sci-fi television and movie prop. Oh, it's just a generic prop that someone invented. It wasn't even for a specific movie. It was just the prop house.
Yeah, it is in a bunch of non-Star Trek stuff. Like, it's in the last Starfighter.
Yeah.
What else?
You have the same article. Knight Rider, Airplane 2, which had Shatner in it, Austin Powers, and countless others. It was in V, I think.
Okay. The only two that I knew was Star Trek and the last Starfighter. Those are the only ones I remembered, but I knew it had been in a bunch of others.
Nobody's sure what the most important device does, aside from the fact that it has red lights that go back and forth.
I haven't watched The Last Starfighter in a long time. I kind of want to watch it now. 1984, my favorite year for movies. Also the year that Star Trek 3, my favorite Star Trek movie, came out.
Yeah.
Me and Aaron were talking about this before. We're not sure if this is a glommer from the animated series on display in the Menage, but it maybe
because
is.
They're very good about, like, when you see it, it's like, oh, we know that's what this was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But this isn't close. I mean, it's close, but it's not right. Especially like they don't even have eye stalks. It's like little.
Yeah, it's like they're not even eyes. If they just would have added 2 eyeballs on the top of those antenna things, that.
Yeah.
If this had like 2 little round orbs up there, I would have been like, that's clearly a glommer. But
yeah, and the spikes that come out of the middle they don't look like spikes. They're actually colored the same color as the body.
Yeah,
so.
Before they kind of look like teeth. They kind of look like if what's his name, Moopsy saw that, he'd be like, oh, that looks tasty.
I'm hoping. I asked Mike if he knows what it is, which I'm assuming he's probably either at the showing or talking in front of people at the Star Trek Day in San Diego. But hopefully by next week we will get an answer if this was actually supposed to be a glommer or not.
Well, we'll find out one way or another. So y'all come back and we'll have an answer for you. And there's also a Seti Il from Wrath of Khan in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a koala with like a unicorn spike on its head. There's all like unicorn spikes.
They all have, that's this section is all unicorns.
So I assume they're from the planet that we go to in The Enemy Within in the original series, where there was a unicorn dog. There's like a unicorn chihuahua here, which is kind of funny. I don't know. Chihuahuas are funny dogs. There's the winged creatures from Aurelius or Areolus. It's like a nipple joke was the name of the planet in in the peanut hamper episode last
Oh,
season.
great.
But there's the turtle doves and the sky
That's
snake
funny.
flying around a cylinder. And
Why
there's
call it a
this,
sky snake if everything's in the sky?
Yeah, that's a funny line.
That was
Like,
one of the
wouldn't it just be a
what?
snake?
It's like, yeah.
The
News thing.
crystal ball with 3 cobras coming out of it. That was a form that Q took, I guess, to kind of like intimidate the Enterprise crew in the Next Generation. He's like, look, I can
Apparently
turn
it's a
into
thing.
this weird animal.
Yep.
Some people have actually theorized that's Q's natural form. That's what he truly looks like when he's not trying to look like a human captain.
Why does all evolved beings in Star Trek seem weirdly not evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Like
Maybe
a 3-headed
that is
snake thing. How is this the person that becomes the ability to like bend space and time? Like what?
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe it's the crystal ball part. I don't know.
some aliens are pretty alien, but yeah, that does.
Yeah.
Like what course of evolution? Like what? The biologist Richard Dawkins called the blind watchmaker of evolution. Like what course of evolution would make this this crystal ball with 3 cobras become like a all powerful god? Like that's just weird. The swamp gobblers, though, they were called Pyrithian swamp gobblers, so I assume they're from the same planet as the Pyrithian bat, from Wrath of Khan, that we actually get to see in Enterprise.
I would say, isn't it an Enterprise? I didn't realize it was in Wrath of Khan for some reason.
Yeah, it's Scotty's nephew says that if the Admiral can't see that, he's as blind as a Pyrithian bat.
Yeah. And then he died.
And then Spock says Pyrithian bats in Star Trek 6, right? When he's like, the boots will cling to the killer like a pair of Pyrithian bats or something like that.
It's mentioned a lot more than I realized.
Yeah, well, Nicholas Meyer said it a couple times. I don't know if anyone else ever mentioned it until Enterprise, but the last thing I got is because I forgot to get a slide to point out that the humans have the same wardrobe that they had on and I restarted my computer, so I don't have. Anyways, I did have a slide somewhere, but I got lost in the shuffle of the episode of Next Generation that you mentioned, Aaron, with the genetically engineered telepaths.
Yes.
Where Pulaski gets super aged, but I can't think of the name. But that's how these humans were dressed in this episode, and then Rutherford's little machine that he's playing with, that he's tinkering on in their quarters at the end, is Wesley Crusher's little tractor beam.
The Icarus factor. Is that? No, that's not it. Never mind.
No,
unnatural selection.
Unnatural selection.
Where she uses, I'm pretty sure, like Nurse Chapel's program stuff from the
animated series.
From the animated series, because she did the same thing to Bones and Kirk and Spock and brought them back to make them old.
To make them not be old and decrepit from the Lorelei signal. So there we go.
The book was actually better because they also lost their memories. They're just like, why are we here? Like, didn't we get to go down the planet? And like, that's gone now.
It's probably
which would make more sense.
They didn't have to be embarrassed with how they made fools of themselves, and Uhura had to save them. But all that out of the way, that's all we got on Gornegs. So y'all heard us talk about these episodes for 2.5 hours. That is a long time. We would love to. We'd love to hear what everyone out there thinks. So if people want to comment on YouTube or reply to some tweets I put on Twitter today asking how people felt about these, or you could tell us in the Tex-Trek Discord server, or we have a Facebook page also. People can sound off. One of the traditions we like to. I'm trying to get active on other socials. Hopefully Blue Sky and Instagram are up and running next week. Wanted to have that done by this week, but just.
And Drawn to Trek has an X or whatever. It's like, but I need to move it over Instagram and Blue Sky as well.
Yeah, we're thinking that Twitter is just inevitably gonna self-destruct. So,
and from what I've heard, Threads is more like brands just talking to each other. It's just like a lot of like, if the snarky Wendy's post from Twitter just had a bunch of those of different brands, that's what it kind of is coming out to be. So people aren't hanging out there, it seems like.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate. There doesn't seem like a good social media platform these days, but we we can still find ways to connect and talk about Star Trek and have a good time.
Yes.
You can always find our show. We'll still be around. Like at least like YouTube.
We did
isn't
before there
going
was an
anywhere,
internet, so
yeah.
we can do it.
But I'm looking forward to more Lower Decks talk in the coming. Man, it's gonna be crazy next week. Just have like one little like half-hour episode to talk about. That's gonna seem like such a lightweight week, but some well-earned
we've got
downtime too.
Yeah, we're gonna have another long stream tomorrow too. So
yeah, that's gonna be tons of fun though. Please,
yeah,
if you are checking us out on Friday, please come back tomorrow, Saturday, at noon Pacific. 2 in the afternoon Central. I guess that'd be 3 in the afternoon on the East Coast. I'm really excited for that, and I'm looking forward to chatting about some TAS and some Trek animation overall, and kind of give all that stuff its due, its day.
We're going to talk a little bit about the strike as well.
Yeah, I want to hear some reports from the picket lines. That all sounds pretty epic today. But we'll be back talking about Lower Decks Friday, 7 p.m. Central, and of course you can listen to us later wherever you get your podcast, and check out the Thursday night streams with Rachel and the gang over there. They had a first reaction stream last night. Yeah, those are fun. So, but until next time, as always. Live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek, and follow Fatheree on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.